Howdy, my name is William.
And I'm Mason.
And we are On Topic,
the podcast where we talk about interesting things with interesting people.
Today, we will be discussing whatever you want us to. We will be responding to your various questions and qualms and queries and instructions and whatnot.
Instructions? Yes, so we reached out to some people in our audience and
our loyal 4 listeners.
Mm-hmm. And we gathered some questions that they wanted us to go over, and we'll be rolling through that today. So that's the agenda.
Yeah, it's our special. This is our 10 episode anniversary. This is our 10th episode special. We're celebrating by listening to you instead of each other.
Yeah. It's crazy that it's been over the course of a long time. Like it's been like physically
like
a while.
What, 8 months?
Something like that. But 10 episodes in 8 months isn't,
Yeah.
Like I was saying,
more than an episode a month.
It's been like it's been a long period of time, but it also feels like this is such a new thing.
Yeah,
that we've
totally.
Started doing.
Totally.
So it's weird to be hitting a milestone already on episode 10, but here we are.
Mm-hmm. We'll see you again for one of these in 10 more episodes. But so real quick before we begin, how about a word from our sponsors?
Our sponsors? Was I supposed to provide sponsors? Oh no.
No, that was a joke. Obviously, we don't have any sponsors. But is there anything you would just like to voluntarily plug yourselves?
Not in particular. I mean, once I have at least a referenceable body of work that like normal people can go out and
oh
look at.
No. I meant like an existing product that you just like and want to promote for free.
Oh, just like okay. What is a good product? I love Costco.
All right.
I'm a big fan of Costco.
Big Costco fan. All right.
Yeah.
Shop at Costco.
Cutting out the middleman, just getting good prices to good people, See, I just came up with a new motto for them.
It's basically what you came up with for the podcast.
Yes.
You seem to have a sort of motif for these things.
Yeah. Anyway, genuinely, Costco is pretty sweet. I'm a big fan of Costco. Would you like to plug anything? Just random?
I was going to make a joke, but I shall refrain. I've just discovered Milanote.
Oh, yes.
I messaged you about this. You never replied. But
I know you I know you put down. Oh, yes.
That's yes.
It wasn't about Milanote though. It just happened to be in Milanote.
But yeah, absolutely astounding platform. It's revolutionized my note taking. I gotta say, I really am blown away. It's awesome. It's like folders and subfolders and whatever in like Windows Explorer, but it's a note taking platform. It's like Google Keep, except you can nest things and other things and include pictures and like put in your Pinterest stuff, and you can port things straight over from other platforms. It's really cool, man. It's like seriously awesome. It's an amazing organizational tool. I recommend profusely that you check it out. I think you in particular, like I think it would be a very useful tool for you to have in your pocket for the project that you're working on right now.
Fair enough. I am organizing things more in like formal documents I know. Like right now, but it's kind of crazy the degradation of good software to the point where like folders that we can put notes in. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Have
you seen Notion?
Notion?
Yeah, it's sort of
Notion. Like, there's a producer named Notion.
There is. He's not bad.
He's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
Reminds me of MPH.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
It's sort of like that, but not antiquated looking. Notion is never going to sponsor us now.
Okay. Hey, Notion. We love you guys. Anyway. Well, should we?
Yeah. So, do you want to start with one of your 4 questions, or shall I launch off on my 10 million?
You should probably. We'll go back and forth. How about that? And
sure.
Then, yeah. We'll go back and forth between them because
here.
Just to preface, we don't know what questions we have in each other's notebooks, in our corresponding notebooks. We don't know what
we do not know the questions which lie within each other's books.
Yes. So you wrote down how many questions roughly?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Because what the hell is that?
It's an old assignment.
Yeah. So anyway, it's probably going to work out such that we can. You'll start, then I'll go, then you go, then I go, because you know everything that's in your end from the people you asked, in the audience, and I know the stuff from my end. 19.
Yes, some of them are. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I think that we should keep these more or less short and sweet. I think that we should do sort of a,
very quippy answer. Just
thank you. That's the word I was going to use, as I had to go off to the side here. I appreciate that. Yeah, just like like 1 to 5 to 10 minute exploration of the question, depending on the question.
Depends how good the question is.
Yes, and how long-winded and how serious. I mean, I think that they're like, I've got a friend of ours submitted a question that I think is exceptional, but will be a rather quick answer for us. I think it doesn't require much exploration.
I see.
This
will be interesting because I'll be operating mainly on instinct and not. I'll be using type System A versus System B.
What?
System 1 versus System 2. System 1 thinking is when it's just immediate, like first thing happens. System 2 is like you actually take the time and deliberate over it and whatnot.
I've not heard about this distinction.
Yeah, it's in. It's a big thing in if you're studying human cognition. Anyway. Cool. Yeah. So it'll be a lot of System 1 responses for me, but
I want to read that Psychology of Language book. That textbook looked so fascinating, man.
It's probably still there.
I read 1 page of it, and I still think back to and reference that page to this day on a regular basis.
Nice.
It was fascinating, man. Anyway, so here within this book, and also there within that book, lie all of your most deep and intimate curiosities,
right?
That you also thought would be interesting to ask us about, or hear our perspectives on, or just make for good podcast fodder.
Yes.
So yeah, let's crack open the tome.
All right.
Do you want to start on a personal note, a philosophical note, or a goofy note?
I think goofy is probably the best.
You want to okay.
Which feels strange to immediately go to goofy, but
well, okay, so we can start out. I think this will be fun, actually.
Okay.
So admittedly, I did supplement these with some questions of my own.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was some sort of technical error on my Instagram.
Yes.
Give me questions button thing, and I didn't receive them from people. I've had reports, but yeah, so I didn't receive a good number of questions.
Yeah.
You four have to do better. So I supplemented them with some of my own. This is one of my own, but I think it'll be really funny, and I think it may be a good way to open into these things.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's why I wanted to start with goofy.
Stay a little philosophical, but also keep this going. So, So to kick things off, I used to run a philosophy club, actually. I used to run the philosophy club at our high school. And I would always start the meetings before we talked about the real topic with a mini prompt that was something just goofy and stupid and contentious, but that you could discuss, like, is facial hair an accessory? Is cereal soup? This sort of thing. So I feel like
a sandwich.
we should just start off with the age-old question. And
here we go.
Yeah. Is water wet?
I would say it depends, which I know is a very unsatisfactory
what does it depend
answer. On? I've said this before. I think for something to be wet, it needs to be in direct contact with water molecules. Now, the something can be anything, though. So I do think water is, if you're speaking about water, in any amount beyond one singular molecule of water, I would say yes, that it is wet.
Interesting.
And I've mentioned this before. It's kind of a tough stance to take, but But I think it's the only, because like I feel like intuitively it makes sense to just say yes, absolutely, water is wet. But then people think about it longer. Then they flip back to water's not wet. But I think you can get a mix of the two. Like I don't think you have to go one or the other.
So I wrote out notes on this some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like an icebreaker in a class or something.
Yeah.
So I haven't read this yet but I'm just going to read it and we'll see what it says.
Nice. Is this your opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
Wet is defined as covered or saturated with water or another liquid. As water exists in a single body, no matter how much water you have, it's still one body of water. It cannot be wet because as soon as water touches it, which is what would make it wet, it becomes more of that same body, meaning that not only is water not wet, but it cannot be wet. I like that. I think that holds. I'm going to stand by it. Water exists if you're talking about water,
mm-hmm.
I don't think that refers to a specific water molecule within a body of water. I think it refers to a body of water. And so if you say
then yes.
water, even if you if you have one single molecule of water,
mm-hmm.
then it's not wet because it's on its own.
Yeah.
But then if you have two molecules of water, it's
mm-hmm.
still, now you just have,
right.
it's not, it's just one
mm-hmm.
that it's water, and the water consists of two water molecules.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It can't be saturated by water just because it just absorbs it into itself.
Mm-hmm.
The identity consumes anything else.
But it is strange, though, because if you think, so if I just pulled a glass out of a dishwasher, it just finished, say it just didn't do the drying cycle or whatever for the dishwasher, I just pulled it out so it's still got, water on the outside. That glass is very clearly, wet, right? But it feels more... It feels more wet than taking a glass of water, filling it all the way up so you can drink out of it, right? And saying, is the inside of this glass wet? The one that came out of the dishwasher feels
wetter,
more wet than having an actual pool of water inside your glass.
Well, but so you would
which
say,
is the weird part.
And my inclination then is to say, well, okay, so maybe the extent to which something is considered wet is based on the amount to which you expect it to be wet.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I'm not sure that's true, because if you jump in the pool,
you
would totally say that you are wet. You would describe yourself as soaked.
Mm-hmm.
But you would expect that too. It's not unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure why the glass dishwasher thing. Dishwasher in the glass. What glass in the dishwasher?
Dishwasher in the glass. Mini dishwasher
applies. It's like a snow globe, but it actually cleans the dishes
more
in there.
Out of pocket joke, but I'm not going to do that.
Anyway,
So I don't know exactly what the distinction between that is. I think it might be a surface area thing, possibly. Because I would still say that the glass is wet.
Yes, in both cases.
Yeah. But also, I feel like there's a level of... So, the human brain is basically just one big prediction machine. Right? It's always making predictions. So, if you make you have a glass of water, it is exactly what you expect. It's in line with your prediction.
Yeah.
Because you have a glass of water. Usually you have water in a glass.
Right.
But less often do you have a glass covered on all edges with water.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's less likely, and it might speak to the form of a glass.
But I think you coming out of the pool, I think you would consider you fresh out of the pool to be wetter than the glass which has just come out of the dishwasher. And that it's in line with the prediction model, but also...
I would say it's the same amount, actually.
Of wet?
Yeah, of wet.
As the full glass or the dishwasher glass?
It feels like the exact same, yeah.
Maybe
as the one out of the dishwasher.
Maybe it has something to do with it being a body of water then. It's if you're in the pool, Well, there's a question. Would you describe yourself as wetter when you're in the pool or when you're fresh out of the pool?
It feels intuitive to say, like, just from like a real quick answer, it feels intuitive to just say like outside of the pool feels wetter, but also when I think about it for even just a little bit, I'm like, okay, no, but like in the pool, you are absolutely
right
wetter.
Yeah,
which so I think you would also,
I agree,
on a technicality, agree with.
Yeah, it seems like there's a sort of perceptual bias toward wetness when you're
right,
when you're in a context that wouldn't normally evoke it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, if you're in a body of water, then you feel less wet than if you're not in a body of water. Same thing with a glass. It feels less wet when it's in a body of water than when it's not in a body of water, but still covered in it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
It being part. And maybe this is a defense of my bodies of water isn't wet thing. Mm-hmm. Because if you take it out of the dishwasher and it's like that, the water isn't necessarily like touching all the other water. You've got a bunch of tiny bodies of water on it as opposed to one body of water in it, right? And so like while the glass that has water in it is just wet once,
right,
the glass that's out of the dishwasher is wet like 10 times.
Right, yes. So you'd make an argument to say that yeah, okay, so like how water would beat up on the glass, you'd see multiple. Okay. I also feel like this is kind of like the reason why this question is always brought up is just because of, I feel like it inherently kind of relies on your own perception of what that even means. It's more of like a linguistics question than
I disagree.
Anything.
Water is not wet, definitionally. Although we often fall here.
Yes, but I don't know. I feel like that's going to sound incredible on the mic. I don't know. I feel like I feel like it's kind of like one of those words that people just agree on, that is kind of like it's kind of like in the previous episode that I was talking about, like that fuzzy cloud of like what you perceive something to be. You have like a good idea of what it is, but you don't know you can't. It's hard to define everything because inherently all definitions are circular. The entire dictionary is circular logic. You have to use words to define words. So it's like you can't have, it feels impossible to have a concrete definition of a word.
Yeah, you're making the case that like all you can know about a thing is how we perceive that thing, not the nature of the thing itself. And so in trying to define things, all we can do is describe the experiences that we get from them.
Sure. And I think that like definitions are just, that's why you go to like one dictionary, Merriam-Webster versus Oxford dictionary. That's one of them, right? Yes. And the wording will differ between certain definitions. Like it is kind of inherently interpretive. Interpretive.
Interpretational?
No, it is interpretive. But it just sounds wrong. Anyway,
Yeah, Webster has kind of gone unhinged. The dictionary, I mean.
How so?
They're just throwing anything in there as words, man. They're putting definitions to like very extended phrases. I don't approve of the way
they had like an absurd word of the year.
They did.
I forget which one.
I feel like it may have been like 6-7 or something. Handy or like skibbity or something.
Oh man, I wish I could remember. I think it was Riz.
Brain rot.
I think it was Riz.
Perhaps.
From like 2 years ago or something. Yeah. I remember seeing that pop up.
But
anyway, so I think it's just, it kind of just goes back to, I think it is just a definitional problem. I don't think it's.
Yeah. I mean, as usual though, like I think one of them is right and all the other ones are wrong. One of them, they're all providing slightly contrasting definitions of a thing, and so either they're all wrong and there's some other answer that we haven't gotten to yet, or one of them is right and all the other ones are wrong. And that's, part of our duty as philosophers is to parse out which of those is the most correct and then adhere to that or distill it until it's absolutely correct. Shall we move on?
Feels like a fruitless effort, but I'm not going to
Well, I beg to differ.
Yeah,
but this makes sense because I think that there's truth and you don't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you want to?
Yeah, let me see if I have anything that most of these I don't think I can really. Okay. We could. I think I briefly spoke about this a while ago, but what distinguishes breaking the law as being a good or a bad action? So like, I think I read this and I was like, and then I thought about it. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I think I know what's going on here. So they're saying like, technically, what would be like stealing a roll of, I don't know, Hubba Bubba.
Okay.
From a 7-Eleven.
Dude, I haven't had that in ages. Missed that stuff.
Really petty crime, right?
Yes.
Doesn't affect that much. Like, it's, again, you shouldn't do it. It's a crime, but, it's really, really petty crime. Speeding, but it feels like going like 15 miles and over the speed limit, which is also a crime.
Yeah, but so the same sort of deal, a victimless one if you do it responsibly. Speed responsibly.
Right, but but then there's like, so how do we look at the law then? How do we deem whether like doing something that is breaking the law? Because you could have someone like a legislator introduce a new law that you think is like, say you're not allowed to eat carrots anymore. You're like, I want to eat carrots. That's a stupid law. So you eat carrots, and technically you're breaking the law.
Right.
But it doesn't feel wrong at all. And I feel like there's a lot of laws that are like that.
Totally.
So where's the distinguishing factor? And I want to hear your answer first, because I actually do have my own for this.
I mean, it's this is one of those places where I haven't fully come around. I haven't fully acclimated myself to the scriptures yet, because I think that we do have a pretty explicit command to just follow laws and submit to governmental authority in the scripture. I think you get a pretty clear picture of that.
Yep.
Don't break the laws. Authorities are instituted by God, and you are put beneath them by God, and so you should respect that authority, even if you think it's bad. But at the same time, like, I think it's stupid that someone who knows how to drive well and has a car that is suited to go at higher speeds safely is bound to the same speed limit as the dude driving a lifted K truck down the freeway. That just doesn't seem right to me. That makes no sense. And yeah, I don't think that it hurts anyone if I don't adhere to it, and so I don't. I'm not. I don't know. My instinct was to say I'm not gonna, but I don't know. I mean, maybe I should or something. I have to meditate on this. Because I do feel like my position deviates from the scripture, which is bad. But like, I don't know, man. I feel like lots of laws are stupid and we have no obligation to follow them.
In sociology, they have actually a very clear distinction between these two things. They define it differently. You have the concrete law, which is like the actual governmentally officiated legislature, right? Then you have the social laws.
Yes, I talk about this all the time.
Yes, you have the social laws, which is like generally seen. I would say it's a reflection of the ethical framework of that the nation has collectively put together, right? Or at least the average of that. Yeah. There's a better way to say that, but I'll stick with average. So I would argue that you have to evaluate it on both terms. I feel like you have to ask yourself, does it take issue with the social one first? And then if it does take issue with the social one, right? So people don't agree that it was a bad thing that you did, then you judge it off with the governmental one. Like, realistically, you're not going to be able to actually like prosecute based on that.
No,
you're going to have to go by just what the
and I mean, that's
concrete
the thing
law
about
is.
Social law is it's socially regulated also.
Yes, and I think this is kind of how this functions already in the way that, like, for example, if you think someone did something illegal you could not do anything about it. Say like in the business world,
right.
if someone did something illegal by like hiding funds or something, I don't know, like they did something that is illegal, right? They're not going to get punished for breaking that law unless someone decides to prosecute it.
Right.
In which case someone's like, they did something bad. Like they did something, and then they finally like decide that, okay, yeah, this did not pass the socially okay status.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Then we're going to go and actually take legal action on it. So I think it's already functioning in perfect accordance with that, at least on a grand scale. Obviously, I think like if you get pulled over for no reason and then the cop tickets you for like obstructing or something, that's just stupid. Like people would agree that's stupid. So sometimes it gets bypassed.
But I mean, then you can go to court and say that it's stupid, and often you'll come out on top.
Exactly. Yeah. So you would go back and say, hey, this didn't pass the social test.
Right.
Yeah. Or the legal test, because then they So
I find that framework of the social preceding the legal, I tend to think of them as like separate domains. Like the way that I like to think about it, I would add one more. You have the like.
Well, you would have scriptural after.
I was just gonna say moral law, or like natural law, but yeah, you have like things that are legally regulated.
Regulated.
Things that are socially regulated.
Yeah.
And things that are just naturally regulated, things that are regulated by natural law, by conscience, by divine ordination, whatever. And so I feel like the social law, the things that we regulate socially amongst ourselves without the intervention of government, should be largely reflective of the natural law of conscience, of divine ordination, whatever. And I think most things should live there, really. I feel like, and we've had this conversation before, but I feel like most problems, most of this like crime stuff and whatever is coming out of like a place of poor sense of communal,
the sense of
care
community.
and values and stuff. And
very
I think
tribal, like
and I think part of the reason for that, part of the reason for that is just the level of massive diversification and globalization and whatever, which does kind of tear communities a bit. But
sure, but you can. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you can adapt under that framework to still create something good. I hold out hope because I feel like it's kind of impossible to deny that that's gonna happen at some point. Anyway,
but the what was I saying? Things should be socially regulated. We have problems because of cultural stuff, values, sense of community, whatever. Right, and so it like the way that most of these things should be regulated and solved, I feel like, is kind of how, like, because we cut out we used legal regulation to cut out lots of social regulation. Like, you're not allowed to like, beat people up anymore, or like get mad at them, or say mean things to anyone or anything. Like,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm exaggerating,
but
right. And so I feel like if you let a little more of that slide, then we just as a body can sort of regulate ourselves based on the natural law and based on values and decent cultural stuff, instead of using what I feel like we do now, which is like regulate like everything within the legal domain as sort of a band-aid solution for the bad values. It's like, well, okay, we've got a deep-rooted problem that's causing this symptom of bad behavior. Let's just like cover up the symptom of bad behavior with a law that says you can't do it. It seems short-sighted to me. And also I think you end up with a lot of stupid laws that are emblematic of a lot of stupid ideas that are propagated by a largely stuped culture.
This has always happened though. Like,
sure.
This is not like a new thing. Like someone, oh man, I wish I could remember the exact thing, but there's like some ridiculous law in like Idaho or something where you can't have a donkey in a bathtub. It's like people have been doing this stuff for ages. Like,
I want to know what brought that about.
You know exactly what brought that about. Someone put a donkey in a bathtub and people got pissed.
Right, sure, but why?
I don't know.
That's what happened in the bathtub?
I don't want to know what happened in the bathtub.
I kind of do. But anyway, yeah, so I think probably scripturally we do have an obligation to like follow laws. That just the fact that a law exists makes it one that you ought to follow. At this point in time, that isn't where I am. Maybe I should fix that. I don't know.
Gotcha. I will allow you to fix your mic now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There you go.
Okay. So
did you want to move on to one of yours?
Yeah, that about sums up that the law question. It is funny how many of our questions ended up being about morality, though. I mean, because that's even sort of a moral question.
More of an ethical question, I think. But yes, I mean, I think more morality cascades into ethics. So I think it's yeah.
Let's see. If you've known each other basically your entire lives, why do you think you wound up with such differing views?
That is interesting.
This was not my question.
I'm curious. You'll have to tell me after who this was. So I feel like we have differing big picture views, but the life experience and stuff, or not necessarily the life experience, but just like the fundamental values that we hold are like surprisingly similar. We've just built those out into two things that are very different.
That's basically correct.
So I think we're very similar in the minutia, but then the grand conclusions that we make, those are where
I think that's differ. Like an exact inverse when we go into the political. I think we basically agree on like most of the big picture stuff. It's just when we get into the how and the why that it starts to get problematic. Yeah. Or, I mean, not problematic, but
turbulent.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, fair enough. The politics episode is going to be
that'll be a fun one. We should bring a mediator.
Yeah, probably. Just like put a beanbag and just let them sit right here in the corner.
Call it Jared. What? Oh, you want a person on the beanbag?
Yes. No, not a decorative beanbag in the corner. I was thinking a plant, but
I was thinking that you were pitching the beanbag as the narrator or the mediator.
I said, get a beanbag, put it here, put someone in the beanbag.
Yes, I missed that part. Anyway.
Yeah. Exciting stuff in our future here on the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jared the beanbag.
Yeah. So would you agree with what I said?
Yeah, I think that's basically correct.
There are fundamental things that are also different. I feel like clarify,
pretty much like the how ends up like the how and the direction end up more or less the same. It's just the why and the like to what end end up a little different. The specific manifestations that end up different. So I feel like we're kind of the same in the middle, and at the lowest and highest level we differ.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah. I think that's a better way. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know.
So as to why,
I don't think there is a why. I feel like we ended up just. Well, okay. So I think it's just at a baseline level. Well, okay. So there's a couple ways you can go with that. You could say we are already at a baseline level, just who we are. You could make an argument for the soul here. I'm not going to.
I am.
You could say that, at our core, the medium space you were talking about was similar, and that's why we became friends in the first place and whatnot. But even beyond that, you could also make an argument to say, like, I feel like when you're really, really young, you'll kind of just be friends with kind of
Whoever's around.
Yeah, just whoever you're, whoever's in your vicinity at that point.
Befriend anything that walks.
Basically, like it's super simple as like when you're a young kid, you just like walk up and say, "Hey, do you want to be friends?" And like, yeah, and then they just are friends,
Yep.
So there, I could also see possibly like, that happened, and then from there we both build out in very similar directions because of the fact that
similar experiences and also refining off of each other's ideas consistently.
We've been yapping for
that's what I'm saying.
Years, So I think it's a combination of both of them personally.
And some of the difference has to be because of formative experience also. But I guess we don't have to go into that here. But yeah, I think largely the differences are because of just a sort of innate I always talk about the underlying you that's beneath all your experiences. I feel like that's where most of the difference comes from, and I think the difference is slim in any significant or like particularly relevant question besides the very abstract. In any grounded question, in any the opposite of abstract. Any material question that feels wrong.
I mean, you could say non-abstract. That just is the opposite of abstract.
Fair enough. Any question of that sort, I think we're going to be sort of similar.
There is, I think, a concrete would probably be the best way. Concrete or non-abstract or one of those.
Right. You get what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay. Following that, are we morally, and this was from a different person, are we morally obligated to be kind? And what constitutes kindness?
Are we morally obligated to be kind? Again, it's gonna have to be, and it depends for me.
That makes sense.
But I think
I'm surprised that you ever are willing to grant any sort of moral obligation.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play ball here and just say
you're gonna
with
play
my own moral, system that I've built up. Yes, I do think you have a moral obligation to be kind. Depends on who you're talking to. Like you have to ensure that the person that you have the potential for providing this kindness towards, like, is deserving of your kindness. I know you probably will say that that's not the case.
Correct.
Jesus says, love your enemies or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think no one is deserving of kindness and you should give it to everyone anyway.
Right. But I don't know. I feel like when you talk about an obligation, I don't feel like you should go out into the world and feel actively obligated to be kind. I think you should just be a kind person.
Yes.
And then through that, you'll just, you'll like, instead of being like, I need to be kind. This person told me to be more kind. I need to be more kind. And then therefore I'm going to hold this door open for this person.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be the reasoning behind that. It's like, I need to be a kinder person. I mean, yes, that's not like a bad reasoning, but also I feel like if you are a kind person, you'll do that without even thinking about it. It'll just happen,
Agreed.
And then what was the second half of the question?
What constitutes kindness?
What constitutes kindness would be, I think I would say actions. I think it'd be action oriented, but I think it'd be actions that you do that don't give you benefit or give you little benefit, but benefit others quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So doing something, taking some action in order just for the pure end of helping somebody else or being making their life easier.
I think we can pretty much lift the definition straight out of the love episode and say, like, to be kind, like kindness is an act of the will accompanied by emotion that leads to action on behalf of its object. Except maybe without the emotion part. Maybe that's the distinction between love and kindness. I feel like kindness is just an expression of love, though.
Yes, I think kindness is... Yeah, I think it would be the smaller... It gives off like the subset. Smaller... Yeah, the smaller actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Totally. Yeah.
Or you could even say that kindness is lowercase l love.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I don't think that would hold. I think you could probably take that apart.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you do like a kind action, but if you have some sort of nefarious or disinterested intent behind it, I feel like maybe that doesn't necessarily qualify as kindness.
Oh no, it wouldn't. I think the intent does matter there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say for my own moral framework, yes, I think you do have an obligation to try and be a good person, and being a good person includes trying to kindness max.
Truly. I think an important point of clarity that I would throw onto the kindness thing is is the distinction between nice and kind.
Sure, yeah.
You see those memes and whatever that are like people in the Northeast are people in the North are like nice but not kind.
Oh, like Canadians?
Like less North than that. Like New Yorkers.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Are sorry, the other way around though, I think. Like people in the North are like kind but not nice. Like they'll insult you and get mad at you for like your car breaks down and they're like, "You idiot, what are you doing with this car in this weather or whatever?" Well, they help you change change your tire, and the people in the South are nice but not kind. Like they'll say hi immediately from across the street and engage in a whole conversation with you and give you compliments. But if it's like, "Hey, my car's broken down," they're like, "Eh?" I don't know how true it is. Having not spent a significant amount of time in either place, but
I feel like it kind of corresponds with the degree of individualism that the place actually holds. I don't know. I could probably map that out and see if there is. I could do like a whole, what is it? Exploratory analysis on that if I wanted to. It'd be pretty easy to model, actually. I bet there's metrics out there I could find, data sets or whatever. Anyway, I think I do know that thing though that you're talking about. It's
right. So like it's like a niceness you can sort of equate more like to something more like politeness. It's like like it wouldn't be, it would maybe be impolite to walk up to someone in a room and tell them their like jacket is on backwards or something. Like it's not like the nicest thing to do,
but it is like a kind
gesture.
Gonna
make them feel bad. It's not like socially expected or whatever. It'll make them feel awkward. It's not going to be nice or polite in that sense, but it's a good thing to do and it'll be good for them in the long run. It's the kind thing to do, but not the nice thing. And I think that's an important distinction. And I think that we ought to be kind and not nice necessarily. I think kindness takes precedence.
But I think when you find yourself in a situation where you're having to do something that's kind but not necessarily nice, you end up trying to be like, you try and keep it as nice as, like for example, if you're in a seminar room, right, and someone, I don't know, has like a, God, I don't know, has like a, I don't know, like a booger hanging out of their nose or something, right? You'd be like, you wouldn't, what I would do is not immediately address it, but like later pull them aside and tell them about it, like I wouldn't.
Oh, interesting. I would tell them,
call them out
sooner than later, just because then they can get rid of it sooner.
Fair enough. And there is a temporal aspect to that. But like I would try and be as discreet as possible about it, because that's the nicest way of being kind in that situation.
Yeah. The kindness often is a sort of ripping off of the Band-Aid, and I see nothing wrong with like oiling the Band-Aid first in the scenario.
Right.
Soaking, I suppose, would be a more normal thing to do.
Oiling the Band-Aid. I thought that was some like old school phrase that you're pulling out of your back pocket.
Nope,
there.
I'm just riffing. Yeah. And then you can draw obvious implications about the nature of love and sin and confrontation of each other in light of those things from what we've just said. But I'll leave that for another episode, or we may have already covered it.
Yeah, I bet we probably already did. Yeah. Let me jump in. Oh my God, I just hit my elbow on the corner of that on the way back up.
Rough.
Oof.
Do you want this to remain?
Sure, just keep it.
Tough guy Mason. Yeah. Oh, I've also written on that topic. Go read my Substack. First Principled on Substack.
There you go. Okay, so another question we had come in was, why are certain drugs decided as legal versus others, despite the difference in side effects and whatnot that crop up? I'll bring up a pretty easy example for this one. I think that I brought this up before in a previous episode, but there's like a drug classification format, right? The classes that I think class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5.
I've heard about this.
I think in class 5 you have things like cocaine and heroin, like all the really, really, really bad stuff. But then you have weed in number 3, and then alcohol is a class 1. So what, it's a bunch of legal questions, I realize, from this one person, but it's, yeah. So on a legal basis, what causes us to make something like alcohol legal, right? Which is very clearly a dangerous, it causes a lot of problems.
And I mean, we tried to make it illegal, we just couldn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it comes down to in terms of, this is another one of those like social regulation versus legal regulation things. It's like, and this is an example that I go to a lot, like prohibition specifically, when I'm talking about this. To validate the claim, because we try to solve our cultural problems by legislating them into oblivion, and it just isn't going to work. You can't stop people from doing something by making it illegal. You have to make them not want to do the thing. They're just going to do it anyway. And so...
Yeah, fair enough.
And that's not to say that we shouldn't necessarily make things illegal. It's just if you want to actually solve the problem, you have to do more than that, or things other than that at a minimum.
Right, because I'm sure that the threat of punishment is enough for some people to say
right, and it's something.
And
there's something also to be said for the government taking a sort of moral stand by making a law, even if that's not the end all be all of the solution.
Right.
But it's not gonna cut it. It's not enough. But anyway, so I feel like the drug stuff is totally one of those, like prohibition. The government's like, oh boy, okay, so alcohol's bad and it's destroying people's lives. Let's not have that. And then they make it illegal, and everyone, so many people are still doing it that they're like, you know what? We may as well just make the tax money off of this. And I feel like weed is pretty much the same thing recently. It just recently was legalized here. I don't know about elsewhere.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think the government is suddenly you know what, it's actually good for people to do that. No, it's bad and it's destructive and people shouldn't do it. I don't think any of that has changed. It's just everyone is still doing it anyway. We may as well make money off it, I think, is kind of their general approach.
Right.
So the extent to which a drug is made legal or not legal, the extent to which it's classified that way, I feel is mostly dependent on how much people do it.
Yes, that's what I was getting
pretty
to.
Much it.
Yeah, I was thinking just now while you were speaking about whether or not the actual physical act that you partake in while you're, using a drug, right? Like drinking versus snorting versus smoking versus all this. I was thinking of that.
Shooting.
Or that, yes. Had any, had any influence on whether or not, and I realized no, it is literally just the popularity of it. Because I was thinking, alcohol is one of the few drugs that you drink. And I was like, that's strange. I feel like maybe that, but then something like codeine, I think it's codeine.
Not familiar.
You may have heard people call it lean.
I've heard of this.
Yes, it's basically just cough syrup.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think they mix it with stuff. Anyway, I don't know. I've never done it. I have no idea. Okay, so no, that stuff destroys brain cells, big time.
Alcohol too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And weed, all of these things. It's what drugs do. It's why they make you feel things.
It's what drugs do.
Say no to drugs.
Yeah, so I think it is just frequent. Yeah, I think you're right. It's just frequency.
Yep.
Yeah, so
And this is one of the many reasons that I don't feel like.
Well, I also feel
I'll
like effects definitely have something to do with it. But also, I feel like, I don't know. So there's a level where weed becomes a problem, right? There's a level where alcohol becomes a problem. There's a level where, like, for example, fentanyl is like used in a medical setting as well.
I mean, weed too.
Weed too, yeah. If you have like Parkinson's or whatever,
right.
you can take weed gummies and it calms you down and keeps you like really steady-handed as opposed to like shaking. That's fantastic.
I'm not opposed to these drugs being issued by prescription for specific things like that. I don't think that a regular person has any business doing them in any capacity.
I will say though, I think quantity of the stuff you have to actually use before it starts taking effect definitely has something to do. Because you'd have to drink a significant amount before you're like
dying
wasted.
of alcohol poisoning. Yeah.
Weed is not you. There's less. You have to do less weed in order to get as like
intoxicated.
Yeah. But still, for example, fentanyl, you have to do just the smallest amount before it's lethal. You know what I mean? So I feel like the amount
that makes sense.
Maybe has something to do with that as well.
I would believe that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Something to think about, but yeah.
Yep. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that they're bad writ large, and you should just avoid them on a social basis. This is one of those socially regulated things. Just like encourage, like don't do it yourself. But also B, encourage the people around you to not do it because it's bad. And if we all do that, then we can weed it out in the way that smoking was kind of weeded out. Oh, that's funny.
Anyway. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, so I wouldn't, I still need to do some thinking on that for sure. Like,
what do you think of caffeine?
Caffeine's a weird one. I don't know. Caffeine is the most accepted of like, well, what is the most accepted of them?
That or like ibuprofen?
Depends. Then you get like mixed up in like what the drugs actually are. Because there's some that are so subtle that like you can't, like I feel like a drug.
Sugar technically?
That's what I'm saying. Sugar can give you a momentary burst in energy followed by a crash. That feels kind of drug-esque, right? So I feel like if it's, I don't know. I don't personally have a problem with caffeine. I do urge people to like remember how drug efficacy functions. Like if you drink 4 cups of coffee every day, you're going to get used to drinking 4 cups of coffee. You're going to get used to the energy level of 4 cups of coffee a day, and your body's going to become dependent on it. So keep caffeine in your back pocket as like a, hey, if I'm really tired and just have to do it, like, or feel like you have an exam or something and you didn't sleep. Exactly. Like, you just like, okay, I just need some pick me up here. Like, sure, you can use caffeine, but don't overuse it to the point where the efficacy of what you're drinking it for diminishes.
Totally. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Same with alcohol, actually. Like people, that's
that
what happens.
I disagree with. That
happens with alcohol as well. Well, yes, but alcohol is different because it like directly kills brain cells, whereas caffeine I don't think does. In fact, caffeine is prescribed for migraines and things like that specifically because it's like perfectly
boosts
healthy,
brain
if
function.
not actually kind of good for you to have a little bit of caffeine. But also in the case of alcohol, right? People get dependent on alcohol for happiness, right? So
for sure.
So that's kind of like the dependent on caffeine for energy, dependent on alcohol for happiness. So
yeah, I mean, all of this sort of substance stuff is like it builds a dependency. It locks you in. I mean, we get this picture in scripture of like sin as bondage. I mean, I would argue that even lustful indulgence is sort of the same deal as you do it. It compounds and you need higher dosages of it in order to get the effects. But also B, you just end up sort of dependent on that in the sense that you need that hit in order to keep yourself regulated and engaged and whatever, stimulated. They tie you down. Anything that's tying you down and making you a slave to it is generally going to be something that's worth avoiding.
Okay, Fair enough.
Except God. I mean, But.
Yeah, under your framework, that makes total sense. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Anyway, did you have another one you wanted to bring up?
Sure. While you have these differing views that you discuss, do you think it makes a difference in terms of what you both think makes a good person and a good life? I think we kind of covered that already.
Wait, say that one more time. That was...
Well, you have these differing views that you discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it makes a difference on... do you think it makes a difference in terms of what you both think makes a good person and a good life? The stuff that we disagree on, does that... Because of those things, do we also disagree on what we think makes a good person or a good life?
Probably.
You think?
Not
more or less similar.
But I think the means change, not the end though. I think we have a pretty similar view on that, on the end goal of all things, but the way we get there is, I think, a little different.
Or even just like the why is different, but the what is more or less the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've got: why, how, and what. And I feel like the how is going to be kind of 50-50, and the why is like 0, and the what is going to be more or less the same.
Pretty close, yeah.
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 Cool. I may have made it a little high.
It's fine. It'll go back down at some point.
Yes, it will indeed. Well, okay. We can do this one real quick in like a one-word answer.
Okay.
Is morality objective?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, you could check out pretty much any one of our previous podcasts to see that unfold.
Yep. Do you want to send one?
Yeah.
Or we can do a goofy.
I can do one that's a little bit morbid, but we'll get there.
Let's do a goofy one.
Okay, goofy first. Into morbid. This is a fantastic pipeline.
We can even... I'll pick one that has sort of a segue.
Okay.
How would you fight a chimp?
How would I fight a chimp? This is definitely your question. Yeah. How would you fight a chimp?
You.
I mean, if like running and away is not an option, and I have to like confront this chimp.
Yes.
Oh man, it's turning into like a Joe Rogan podcast where they just talk about how menacing chimpanzees are for like.
I did not know this about Joe.
Like one of the noises that the intro makes is like it does that when you look at the body.
All right.
Anyway, they talk about chimpanzees a lot.
Duly noted.
I have no idea what they say on it.
Does Joe Rogan think he could beat up a chimp?
I don't think so. I think he's kind of accepted that he can't.
Really?
Yeah.
He's like a big MMA guy, right?
No, he's kind of short. He's built, but I think he's
not
short.
Physically big.
Yes, but he is. Yeah, he's very. Yeah, he's pretty good.
And acclaimed.
Yes, he's a pretty good fighter. I think he's an MMA commentator, but he also fights.
Gotcha.
He like trains and stuff like that. I have no idea, actually. I was gonna say wrestle it, but
that seems like a very bad idea.
That seems immediately
seems like the worst idea.
Because the thing that's gonna so impact and teeth. Those are the two things you have to worry about. I feel like with a chimpanzee.
Really? I feel like
just the teeth are the big thing. The
pulling strength would be an issue. Or like I feel like grappling would be a sort of a point where the chimps excel.
Do they have claws?
I don't know.
I think they probably do.
But right, because I mean, like they've got like super long, super strong arms that are for swinging around on stuff and moving them around, and so it seems like that would be very, very good for grappling.
I know that there was. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a very famous chimpanzee attack incident. I wish I could remember his name.
The chimp?
No, it's not Ben. It was based off. So
good job remembering the chimp's name. I did not.
For context, we watched Primate.
Yes.
Like not that long ago. Yeah.
Interesting movie.
Yeah, very interesting movie. It was based off of the scene from, I think it was what's that one movie that
I meant interesting in a joking way, not a serious way, to be clear.
Keegan-Michael Key directed?
It's a very funny name. I don't know this guy.
You know the Key and Peele skits?
That rings a bell.
Or was it Jordan Peele? I don't remember which one's which.
Fair enough.
He directed a movie, I think. It was like a horror movie, but it like was a Western. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but they based that scene off of the chimpanzee that was like really poorly handled and neglected. It was used for films and stuff like that.
Okay.
But like its actual handlers were like mistreating it a ton. And the injury that happened was the chimpanzee literally ripped the lady's face off.
Wow.
Like she had like a bunch of, she survived, which is crazy, but her face is incredibly disfigured. And it took its hand and ripped it off.
Brutal.
It wasn't like it bit it off. It ripped. So I feel like you'd have to stay away from its hands because I feel like every incident I've heard about that, like a chimpanzee or a primate attack, like a bonobo, I think bonobos are the smaller ones. Never mind. There's a very similar one to chimpanzees.
Macaque?
Maybe. I don't remember. It does have a goofy name. That does sound kind of correct. But anyway. Every one of those instances I've heard of, it's like their hands, they just kind of go ballistic with their hands. So I feel like you'd have to control its hands, But then its feet are hands. That's the tough part.
that is a tough part.
I feel like you would probably want to keep a distance from it. You'd probably keep it, like just keep it at a distance. But also, I don't feel like you'd want to extend teep. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems dangerous because I feel like it could very well
grab
just
your leg
and cause problems. Yeah. I would probably, I feel like surely you're faster than it on the ground.
That's what I'm saying. But like if you can run. Like I feel like your top speed as a human is going to be way faster than chimpanzee because it just isn't made for.
So if it's like trying to attack me and we're in an enclosed space, I think my instinct would be to try to put enough distance between me and it for it to come on a readable line toward me and then just like send a strong kick at it and hope it, like not a teep or like a front kick, but like a
side
swing
line,
at the side of it and just hope that I can hope I get lucky and punt it across the room.
Gotcha.
Is kind of going to be and then just run that back for as long as it takes. I think that's
interesting.
The best I could do.
I also could see an argument for like choking it out, like constricting its airways. It'd be tough, but also I feel like that's one of the benefits we have as humans is we have that foreknowledge of like saying, oh, we know how airways work. We can like, how arteries work. I feel like you could maybe get it in like a guillotine or something, but I don't think it would work.
I just feel like it would be better at that than you. Is the
that's like, that's the
like
thing.
It can just reach all the way behind it.
I think keeping your distance is like the primary thing you'd have to kind of go at it and then back out and then at it and then back out, Sorry, we're having technical difficulties right now with this microphone. Okay. Anyway.
Yes, I agree. Keeping your distance, I think, would be the move, and then just hoping. It seems like fast, sharp impact would be the thing. You can maybe try to like sneak a punch into its head or sneak a kick onto it somewhere from the side, but it seems like going dead on down the front is going to be a bad idea, and trying to do anything that's static would be a bad idea. Trying to grapple, trying to like send a slower kick, doing anything slow seems bad.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I would have to like study chimpanzee footage to see how like it moves and stuff like that. But again,
this is totally making me wonder what like a person who knows about. I don't even know what expert you would go to for this.
Well, probably an handler, like a
martial arts expert. Get the two in a room.
That'd be crazy.
Someday we're gonna,
That's just our future right there. One of them is gonna be a
spoilers, guys. That's you mean us?
Yeah.
Oh, which am I?
I have no idea. Probably.
I guess I'll be the martial artist.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd probably be the chimp handler.
Chimp handler. Anyway.
No, they terrify me. I would not. Like I don't mess with.
Chimps?
I don't like keeping animals in a place they're not supposed to be. It just weirds me out, unless for like conservation efforts, which are always pretty good. So, yeah. Anyway, so short answer.
Oh yes, morbid.
Morbid. Yes.
Go handle a chimp.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's just I would need to do more. I need to be better prepared for that. But I think keeping a distance and weaving in and out would be the best idea.
Yep.
Is assisted
kiting? You kite and poke. That's the.
Is assisted suicide ever reasonable?
No.
Okay. Why?
I don't think suicide is ever reasonable, even if it's unassisted. Your life was given to you it's like children. Your life was given to you as a gift. It's not, you don't own your life. It's not yours. It's God's.
Mm-hmm.
It's not yours to get, like, you're not responsible for it. It was given to you as a blessing, and you don't have the right to take it away. That's God's prerogative. If God wants you to be dead, you'll be dead. Trust him on that one. Same thing with kids. It's like, you're not guaranteed to have a kid when you do the thing. We get a picture of God weaving people in the womb. It's God decides whether or not a kid happens. You even get evidence of that by kids happening without the thing being done. One of them, just one, ever, only. But it's like, right? So it really frustrates me to hear people, especially like Christians who are otherwise rather faithful, talk about like planning or restricting their number of, like, we're going to have 2 kids, or we're going to have 3 kids, or we're going to have a kid. It's like, no, you'll have as many kids as the Lord decides to bless you with. Kids are a blessing. Kids are a good thing. Blessed is he who has many in his quiver. And so you just do the thing. That's all. That's your part. And then if God wants a kid to happen, a kid will happen. Same thing with life. You just do your thing. If God wants you dead, you'll die. Not up to you, not your life. You have some level of value. It is good that you are alive. It's good that you exist. You have some level of value in this world, and there's a reason that you are here.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think that you have whatsoever the prerogative to say, you know what, I don't feel like being here, even though it's good that I exist and there's something that I offer, no matter how small or drab it is or whatever.
So I will say, I think assisted suicide in most cases, I don't know because it's not legal in many places. I think it's technically legal in the Netherlands or Belgium or something like that.
I know they're debating it in England, but I'm not sure if they've actually done it.
Regardless, I know it's used for people that have like terminal illnesses or whatever. So like, say, because I feel like you can like kind of push this to its extent and come up with like a point where you're just like, okay, just let them pass, like, for example, if you had an older gentleman who like got into a car accident and they had to be kept on life support. Right. So they had like a ventilator, or they had like intubation or whatever. So they have this tube down their throat so they can breathe and stuff. Like, it's just an awful, like it's just, everything's bad. And you have this treatment that you could do that's like maybe going to give them 15% chance to live or something like that. Right. Or they just live out the rest of their life on all this equipment, just like horrible quality of life.
Well,
right?
Treatment with a low chance of success is very different from assisted suicide. I mean, the goal in that case is to save them.
Sure, but so I'm I'm just putting in a thing that's like kind of close to that. Is the ethical thing then to turn the life support off, right?
No.
With the family in the room to decide and whatnot on that.
No,
you don't think so?
Nope. You can maybe make a case that it would be a sort of noble act of self-sacrifice for the dude to make the decision himself, so that his family wouldn't like have to keep paying for it, so that like as a sort of last act of providence to help them financially.
What if they had a DNR, a do not resuscitate?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you should.
So you don't think you should have a DNR? What if I'm trying to push this to its extremes because like you could have a life, you could have years and years of just constant pain. Like you're like just your existence is just painful and awful. It's just terrible.
Yeah, I think it's still good and it's still a blessing, and I cite the Book of Job as my reference for that. And there's no guarantee that things will stay that way. We don't know exactly how all this stuff works either. We've had all sorts of more miraculous healings than chronic pain being healed. And I mean, like people who are in chronic pain still go on to do great things. I mean, like look at like Joe Foley has some sort of chronic pain disorder. I don't know exactly what it is. And he's great, and he does all sorts of very useful, very good philosophical exploration that helps a lot of other people besides himself, and I think is also gratifying to him in some way. And Jordan Peterson struggled with that for a long time.
Yeah, of course. So those, like condition-wise, yes, fair enough. I think I'm not making an argument for assisted suicide.
Playing devil's advocate.
I don't think it's kind of, I don't know if you can make a similar argument to like, okay, so how do you feel then about like going into areas that are very drug ridden, right? There's a lot of users in an area, right? Yep. And you provide them with clean needles.
Don't do that. You're facilitating.
But is it facilitating or saving people? Because people will die from bad, like from misuse of, like they'll have poor reused needles or whatever that will end up getting them infected and possibly killing them.
Yeah, the problem isn't the needle. The problem is them doing drugs. They're just, the drugs are slowly killing you either way. You're killing yourself a little bit by doing drugs. If you happen to get AIDS and die of a disease because you used a dirty needle, that's like you just happened to kill yourself by doing drugs a little bit faster instead of a little bit slower like you would with a clean needle. But either way, you shouldn't be doing that, and that's on you. You don't give, no, I don't hold with this.
So you think, because you were like, oh, but you want to maximize life, right? You want to like, saving a life is like a big thing. Isn't that like you
life is a good thing and a blessing, but I don't think that you save it by facilitating sin. It's good for children to be born. I don't think that means like bearing a child is the creation of life, and I think that it is good, and we do have an obligation to do that to the extent in which we can, but that's still bound by moral law. I don't like, just because life is good and we should have children because children are good, that doesn't mean that now, okay, so you can then get your father drunk and sexually assault him to then end up with a child. This is the Lot story.
Gotcha.
That you brought up a while ago.
Yep.
Like bad action, good thing, it leads to life. The life is good. Good things can come out of bad actions, but the action is bad and you shouldn't do it. I don't think you should facilitate someone's bad thing to like help draw it out under the behavior. Like the way that you help that person is by getting them intervention, by sending them to a clinic, by whatever sort of thing like that, not by giving them clean needles so that they can kill themselves slower by their, that's
right. So the reason why I brought that up is because I feel like people that do argue for access to assisted suicide kind of look at it from a similar approach. Like I have a feeling they'd probably say, yes, that is a good thing to provide clean needles.
Right, that makes sense.
Because if you are looking for attempted suicide from assisted suicide, like services, right? You're already suicidal, right? And it's like more like a, if you are going to kill yourself, you may as well do it in like the best way you can, which would be assisted.
You're right.
And in a painless way. Like,
yeah.
So how do you feel about the death penalty then?
I'm against it. Okay. Again, not our prerogative.
Nice. I am also against the death penalty.
Based There's there's use you can get out of them, man. Is the very cynical way to look at it, but also, I mean, that's a life that could turn to Christ.
Yes, yeah. I mean, fair enough. I'm always a rehabilitation over punishment type of person, which I feel like most Christians should be. A lot of them are not. But that's another. We can get into that at another time.
I mean, I think I'm more or less on the same page. It seems to me like, again, I mean, they're going to be living out brutal internal. I mean, look at Crime and Punishment, the book, not the phenomenon.
Crime and Punishment? Wow.
Right? Like, you're going to be living, you don't need to be in jail in order to suffer the consequences of your actions. You're going to be, in some ways, I think the punishment could almost be cathartic because it creates a sense of balance or of penance in your mind. Mm-hmm. If you don't get that, I feel like that may well lead to deeper internal suffering. Yeah, I mean, the Lord will be your vindicator. You don't gotta do it. Again, not your prerogative. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that you shouldn't like detain people away from society, like in terms of public safety or whatever. Like if someone is a repeat criminal or someone's like killed someone or whatever, like I think it's reasonable to put them away so that they don't sit there being a threat to other people. I think that's perfectly fair, but it's not like in the interest of like, you did a bad thing, now we make you suffer. It's like, well, no, we need to keep these people safe and you're in the way of that.
Mm-hmm. So it is a little okay, we should probably talk about this in another episode because I could rant about this for a while.
We could do one on,
admittedly.
What would the topic be? Death penalty specific? I feel like that's too short because we agree.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, I'm open to this.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that in the future. We'll do an extended. Because I've already dragged this question out to an extent. But yeah. Anyway, so yes, I agree. I don't think assisted suicide is great to allow. I think there are better.
Nice. I'm surprised
things out there,
but I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it. Moving forward.
Yeah.
Duck Hygiene.
Duck Hygiene?
Yes.
What about Duck Hygiene?
That's the full question. I would assume a sort of instruction or interpretation. I read
hygiene.
I read the question something akin to the how would you fight a chimp? You've got a duck. You need to take care of it. You need to keep it clean. How do you go about this? What makes
ducks are fantastic at cleaning themselves, as far as I'm aware. They have, I think that's why their tongues are all weird, so they can fish stuff out of the water.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even what makes a duck hygienic? What constitutes a hygienic duck?
I feel like it's very similar to a cat. In like, okay, well, let me hold on. So if you provide a duck with a pool, it will clean itself. Yes. Like that's where they go.
Yeah.
And they like dip their head in the water and they like ruffle their feathers and whatnot. The nice thing about their whole system is that it kind of keeps itself clean. Mm-hmm. I mean,
cats will get stinky if left to their own devices, though.
No. No, they tell you. I mean, if it's like a really 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 old cat, elderly cat, yeah,
cat,
it will be. it might struggle to keep care of itself if it's a perfectly healthy cat.
I mean, they don't have some sort of magical cleaning agent in their saliva or anything, do they? I mean, I
feel like there is something.
I've heard something good amount done, but I feel like surely a duck could at least benefit from a bath
significantly. Yeah. So I think
as a cat.
So it depends. It depends on the environment that the cat. Like, for example, keeping a clean house will also help the cat with preventing fleas, for example, right? And I think a cat with fleas is less cleanly than than a cat without fleas, right?
Yes, I agree.
So, so I think if you keep its environment clean, then the cat is completely self-sufficient in cleaning itself, and I think the duck would be a similar thing.
Well, I mean, ducks are from nature.
Cats are like indirectly from nature.
Yeah, the house cat is totally a human concoction, though.
Yes, it is fully domesticated, but also like pigs are domesticated, so it's
not to the same extent, though, as house cats. I feel like they've gone through more intensive breeding.
There are very similar cats in nature to house cats. I know it hasn't deviated much. I think there's an African black-footed cat or something like that, and it looks very similar.
Yeah, I know the one.
It looks very, very similar to that, but I think the original cats were from the Mediterranean region, roughly. So it could have been, actually, from that. But I don't know the taxonomy of the modern house cat.
Enough.
I don't.
At any rate, it's not clean there.
Yeah, no, I don't think the natural world is very clean.
Right, and so how do they remain hygienic?
By providing an environment. Your responsibility for keeping your cat hygienic is keeping your own space in which your cat cohabits clean.
Then a duck can't be hygienic without a person.
I guess it'll be relatively hygienic. I feel like a duck in... I don't know, but ducks they reside in different places than cats do.
They do. We're talking about ducks.
Like if I go to the local pond or whatever.
Yes.
Not, we'll say it's natural. Most of them where we live are not natural.
Yeah.
But so we'll say it's natural. Yes. It's a natural pond.
You go to the local natural pond.
Yes. And there are ducks there. They're probably going to be pretty cleanly because the water in a natural pond.
I'm not sure that's necessarily right. I mean, like, would you lick it?
I wouldn't lick it.
Why not? If it's clean.
Clean versus like safe to drink or whatever, or safe to ingest are different.
Well, right, but I mean, I feel like that could be part of hygienic. Is like, can you lick it? Test of hygiene. Because, like if you've just given your duck a bath,
sure,
you could probably lick the duck and be more or less okay. Nothing would really happen. But if you pick a duck up out of the local natural pond, now we've gone one step further, and it's in your hands, and you go.
There's like a threshold for cleanliness. You don't need your duck to be maximally cleanly all the time. I feel like that's impossible, and also like not going to be satisfying if you don't accept that.
Undesirable. You've got to get dirty and then clean and then dirty again.
Yeah. So I feel like as long as it's not noticeably unhygienic,
like stinky or visibly dirty.
Yes. Then yeah, I think it's fine. I feel like ducks are pretty self-sufficient in that. The closer you get to nature, the more self-sufficient things become. For
sure. But it's like, I don't know. I think maybe a test could be, would you feel okay? Well, and I guess there's a distinction to be made between like runner ducks and regular ducks also.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have a pond and you've just got runner ducks and they run around your garden and whatever,
mm-hmm.
I think you could feel pretty okay, like as long as you keep them relatively clean.
Yeah.
You could feel okay like handling your duck and then eating
mm-hmm.
a sandwich.
Sure, yeah.
I think that'd be okay. But you couldn't do that with like a pond duck. Because of the water, like you wouldn't, you just don't want to eat pond water. It's not a good survival technique.
Right. Yeah. The only practical thing I can really say about this is for people that have pet ducks is to just put things on their feet if you're walking them on hot surfaces.
Totally. And don't feed them bread.
Yeah, don't feed them bread. They can't digest gluten.
Peas or carrots.
Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah, don't throw bread into ponds. It's terrible for ducks. Their bodies cannot digest gluten. I don't believe so.
And that's got to make it. That's got to make them unhygienic.
Yes,
that's got to lead to poor.
I think it can lead to kidney failure. I think.
Oh, well, that's.
I might be wrong about it. Again, it's been a while since I've heard the statistic or whatever.
I feel like if a duck is dead, that automatically makes it unhygienic. Or maybe
I don't think it depends. It means their capacity to be unhygienic jumps up quite a bit. But I don't think because if a duck has a heart attack and dies, and it's the most clean duck in the world, it's not going to be
sure.
unhygienic right
immediately.
after it dies.
But I think it scales as a proportion of the time that it's dead.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. As the decomposition. This is morbid now again.
Yes.
Yes. As the decomposition process takes place. Yes.
Well, we can do some personal questions. Oh, what do you have another one?
Did you pop your pen on the? Oh, I see. I thought you actually.
Oh no, that'd be
it.
crazy. I'm not gonna do that. That seems like a bad idea. It's gonna break again.
Would you like to fix your microphone?
No,
real
it's
quick?
fine.
Okay. This is the last stage of
Just
grief acceptance. So my last question, I feel like we probably should just talk about in another podcast. I'm guessing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a little more serious, and I feel like we'll end up rambling about it for a while.
Okay.
So, and we've already touched on it briefly.
So we've been talking a lot about legal stuff.
Mhm.
Another question that I got, and I was on the fence about bringing this one up because it's a little racier. But when does the government have the right to take a life?
When does the government have the right to take a life? I think if there is the threat of more lives being taken if their life isn't taken. I think it would be if that person that the government is at least contemplating taking the life of has the potential to take lives, if not killed. Then
everyone has the potential to take lives. That's
like a direct.
If it seems imminent, just cause.
Yes. Yeah. So like, and it can be. Yeah. So okay. So there's a couple things. So with the so there's a couple you can go different. There's different scales to the situations you can imagine in this case. You can think of a shootout starting at a traffic stop, right? Yes. I think it's the cop's responsibility to if they're going to take that person's life, they have to make sure that okay, first off, if they have a substantial a substantiated inclination that their life might be in danger, right? Like for someone has a gun in their passenger seat and they're reaching over for it.
Right. Yeah.
You have full.
That's just cause for sure.
Yes. Yeah. But if they're still seated in the car and they have a knife in the passenger seat and the cop is outside of the car,
right,
and they reach for it, that's not enough because they could step back. They could just not engage with that. They have another route. So if the quickest and most reasonable route is to do that, is to take their life, then I think it is justified.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. It seems like if they're imminently putting someone else's life in danger, and that's the most immediate or functional, the most immediate or viable means to address it, then I think that's what should be done.
Yeah. So, and this could be This goes beyond that. So say there's a school shooting or something, right? And this person is not actively shooting anybody, right? But they still have their gun on their hip or whatever.
Right.
Is that enough after they've already shot multiple times? Is that enough for a cop or a policeman to shoot them?
It would be.
I think it probably would be.
I've never understood why they don't you can shoot people without killing them. Shoot their gun arm. Shoot them in the shoulder that they're shooting with. It's I don't know if it's an accuracy thing. You never see it done in movies, at least. But
so they are you are instructed, I think, to if someone has a knife and is running at you or whatever, you're supposed to shoot them in the leg, I think.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm talking about.
Although, because I think that's the best place, because arms are too small of a target. Leg is a little bit easier to target.
That's fair. With shoulder or something.
The only danger with shooting someone in the leg is you have a major artery that goes that's pretty much right in the middle of I forget what it's called. The femoral artery.
That makes sense.
I know my stuff. Yeah, the femoral artery, I believe.
I know my stuff.
The femoral artery. The femoral artery. Yeah, so that's like the only danger, but you have a lot of meat there. Yeah. Whereas like you also have an artery in your arm that's,
right.
But that's also takes up less of it and it's harder to hit. So I think they just said like, okay, the best place of all of the places to just disable somebody is to shoot them in the leg.
Yeah, so it seems like if no one is in imminent danger and you can viably and safely detain them without in a non-lethal way, then you should do that. But if that's in question, if you have any reasonable doubt about that, then I think it's reasonable to go about it in an lethal manner.
Gotcha. Who holds the reasonableness of that?
I feel like it's got to be the person in the moment, and then that can be subject to some sort of larger review if you want. So
that was going to say, the review is what I was asking. It's like the decision of whether or not the action that was taken was justified or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's solid. That seems like a solid thing for the courts to do. That's what they're for.
Yeah. So one instance that I find kind of interesting in this regard is, the Acorn incident?
No.
There is a video of a cop who was doing a regular traffic stop, right? And as they're walking up to the window, an acorn falls from the tree onto the top of the car that they have pulled over.
Why does this sound like a thought experiment?
It kind of does. An acorn falls and hits the top. It goes and just hits the top of it. And the cop panics, runs away, says, "Shots fired, and runs away. And an acorn hit the top of the car.
Right.
That's just not reasonable. I have no idea, genuinely, what was going through his head. But in something like that, where someone perceives that there is a legitimate threat when there isn't, is that a fault of their reason? Then, would you say that they are guilty for that, even if their immediate instinct is, "Oh my God, I'm in danger"?
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe you could charge them with manslaughter, but not murder. Certainly.
I should clarify, in the Acorn incident, they shot through the car multiple times. There were two of them. The one person was the first person to call out the shots fired, and that's the person who heard the acorn and stuff. No one died. They shot through the car multiple times, and thank God, thank whatever God, there was no no one died. I don't even know if they were injured, which is shocking. But yeah. Anyway, so.
I mean, I think that person probably shouldn't be a cop anymore due to lack of judgment or internal regulation. But I don't think that it's if that had happened and they had killed someone, it's
Can you say?
I think they should be discharged. I'm not sure they should be arrested.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. So. That one's strange because it is just ludicrous. It's such a funny scenario that an acorn caused that. But that is exactly what happened, is what you said.
I believe, yeah. Oh, I believe, gotcha.
Actually, no. I think he himself left the police force, actually.
That makes sense. I would do that in that situation, yeah.
It may have been before they could come to a decision on that. He just decided to leave anyway, but I don't think he was prosecuted for that.
Gotcha. Which seems appropriate. Social regulation.
Yeah, fair enough. So I guess that is just, just cause is literally just exactly that. You have a bunch of people in a room and they make a collective decision on whether or not something was reasonable or not.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
That was surprisingly smooth. Let's go into the personal a tad.
Okay. I don't even know. I feel like most of these are inherently personal.
Fair enough. We'll start out. What do you do outside of philosophy?
I feel like this is more so directed at you, but I will just go over it.
It's actually my question.
Oh, is it? Oh, I see. Well, you can make an argument that anything you study or anything you pursue is in some way related to philosophy. So, like, you could say nothing.
Fair enough.
But in
the spirit of the question.
Yes, in the spirit of the question, I will, segment it properly. And so I do. Oh man, recently I've been reading up a lot on markets. So I've been I'm kind of just hyperactive as of recently. I'm doing a kind of like a detox from watching YouTube. That was a lot of what I used my time for, was watching like just YouTube videos on the most random topics in the world. Yeah. Which is good, but it also eats up a lot of time.
Yes, for sure.
And I feel like a lot of the time that I was spending on those, I ended up eating into the time that I would have been using for formal education. I feel like formal education versus informal education, there are times when informal education beats out formal education. But also, I feel like, especially with my domain being so technical, it is just formal education is just the way to go for that stuff.
That makes sense.
So it really is just a lot of reading as of recent, a lot of exercising. I've been a much, much, much more social person, like just, in my day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. I think my highs and lows have kind of balanced out, which is interesting. So like times where I'm the most social or not, or like, they're not as high of a high as they used to be.
Right.
But I think I'm more social, like on a blanket, more social, like, as a blanket statement.
Right. Get this man a blanket.
I'll bring a blanket next episode. Why not?
Someday we'll cozy. Someday we'll do the subscriber special in bed.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I really just a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of random jotting down of things, right? Like I made a whole market predictions thing that I was telling you about before the podcast. So I've just been doing a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot of technical stuff outside of philosophy, but then I also like to dive into philosophy because it can be technically it can be technical.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
that's all good. That's good stuff. I mean, is there anything like not like non-intellectual
other than exercising? Not really. I've been running a lot more often than I have. What else have I been doing? Let me think about what I've done in this past week.
Give us the play-by-play.
I've been trying to go to every single non-chain cafe in Tempe.
That sounds fun.
And get
like a fun
and rating them as I go to them. So I have a whole list.
Rating or rating?
Rating. Not rating.
Okay.
Yeah. Rating them. So I have a whole list of all the of everything. So I've been looking through all that and trying to I've been going to each cafe with my girlfriend and seeing which ones we like the most.
That sounds fun and wholesome.
Yeah, it's very, very fun. Yeah, I'm only 3 out of like 10 in, but all 3 of them have been pretty solid. So
nice. Which ones have you gone to?
Ooh, man. I'll tell you after the podcast.
Okay.
But
you don't want to promote their business?
They can promote their business. The one that I went to recently was Proof. It's called Proof Bakery. So it's a bakery. That's like their main thing, but they also sell coffee as well.
Did you do proofs there?
No, I think they mean like, how you proof dough.
Is it like alcohol?
No. Proofing is like, I think letting the yeast let its gases out or something.
Oh, interesting.
It's a part of the bread making process is proofing the dough.
All right.
I think that's where that comes from. I have to guess considering it's a bakery.
I wonder if it's the same process of the offletting with the alcohol, possibly. And that's why it's called the proof.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Possibly. I know you do. It is a fermentation process. So yeah. Probably.
Interesting.
And Anyway, so Proof Bakery, yeah, they have fantastic stuff.
If you're looking to sponsor anyone,
get their garlic rosemary twist. It's fantastic.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
That does sound really good.
They have also really, really good croissants. It's fantastic.
Croissant.
It's pretty solid. Anyway, so what do you do outside of philosophy? Or is philosophy just most of what you do?
It used to be more, honestly. I've gone down this. I've been going. So we just got our fancy new camera for the podcast running and whatever, and we've gotten some lighting rigs and whatnot going since then. And so I've been on a super super massive deep dive rabbit hole of just like video stuff. Camera settings, color grading, how to use Premiere, how to do lighting, all this stuff. And that's been taking, because like I don't have like a ton of free time. I keep myself relatively busy between school and like I am currently training 2 martial arts and we climb every so often and stuff. Like I keep myself pretty active and pretty busy, so I don't end up with a ton of spare time. But the spare time that I do have, and then I'm, like editing these and working on music for people and whatever, doing homework, etc. But whenever I'm like driving or just sitting around, I would used to like throw on an audiobook or a sermon or a lecture or like Alex O'Connor and Joe Foley talking to each other, or whatever. But this rabbit hole has kind of had me like, now whenever I have a spare moment, I'm like turning on something about content creation. To learn how to do it. And so I've actually been a little bit less philosophically immersed in the last month or so than I generally am, which I don't like. I'm slowly easing back in as I've gotten my feet under me with this stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's learning is the main thing. Whether I'm learning philosophically or learning about content creation or whatever, I'm trying to launch my own personal platform. I'm trying to launch this stuff. I'm writing, recording videos, learning how to do that stuff, editing footage, training capoeira, training Muay Thai, climbing.
Yeah.
All sorts of things.
Well, nice. Yeah.
Yep.
I
do, there's that place that does the free ballroom dancing.
Oh, yes.
Right nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing that on Sundays, and that's super fun. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, obviously, most of that I already knew, but I'm sure people are happy to to listen to that. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yep.
Did you have another?
I do.
Can't believe Duck Hygiene was one of our questions.
You can guess who that was.
It was definitely you.
No.
What? This
was the one I was alluding to before the podcast.
Oh.
Where you have to be very careful with the vowel.
You can tell me after. I don't remember exactly who that you were mentioning, but yeah, it's fine. Anyway,
Okay, but did you get my joke?
Oh yes, I did get your joke.
Thank you. Who is your favorite philosopher? Who is your favorite falafel, sir?
I don't really enjoy. Well, I don't really enjoy falafel, but I don't really enjoy. Falafel's strange. Let me hold on.
Hold on.
Falafel can be fantastic, but it has like 80% of the time it's terrible. That's my one problem with falafel. Anyway, I don't really collect philosophers' names in my head like Pokemon. Like some people will do that. They'll be able to like pull references up.
Yeah.
I'm guessing your favorite philosopher is probably Jesus Christ.
Not a philosopher.
I think you could probably. You're right.
Yep.
I feel like he is probably one of the most influential philosophers of all time.
So Alex O'Connor and Joe Foley actually did a special together where they did like a philosopher tier. My brain is stuck on philosopher. A philosopher tier list, and they put Jesus on it and spent a good amount of time discussing his positioning. I believe he even made it to like a second tier or whatever. I sent you that video. Did you watch it?
That's not the same one.
It was years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I did watch it. Yeah, I don't know if it was because it popped up in my recommended or if it was because you sent it to me. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. So.
Yeah, and they were basing their discussion the whole time on this assumption, on this classification of Christ as a philosopher, and I simply don't think it applies. Philosophy is the exploration of or search for the truths of the universe. Philosophy is the love of wisdom and the pursuit of it. Christ can't pursue wisdom because he is wisdom.
Sure, but from the position of an atheist, we would kind of be forced to just say that he is a philosopher, and that's kind of it. Besides, the debate on whether he was claiming to be God or not. But I'll let you continue what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I guess I can kind of see that, but certainly as a Christian, I don't think you can consider Christ a philosopher. He's more just an arbiter of truth, which is a very different thing. I feel like an inherent trait, a necessary condition for philosophers is that they can't be 100% provably certain about that what they're saying is true. I feel like philosophy is exploratory. And
gotcha.
Christ's office was not exploratory. It was messianic also, but messagerial. It was that of a messenger. He's referred to even as a prophet.
Yes, I mean even in other religions he's referred to as a prophet.
Yep. Which is a different thing from a philosopher.
Sure.
Yeah.
But again, I think from the atheist perspective, I think you'd have no other choice but to call him a philosopher. But you're not an atheist, so you don't have to do that. So, yeah, that's why I referenced him as a
Fair
philosopher.
Enough. But no, he would not be my favorite philosopher. Not a philosopher.
Well, how about what's your favorite philosopher then? Because I'll probably need a little time to think about that.
Fair enough. I'm honestly not sure. I mean, like there are a couple domains on which you could assess that. I mean, you could talk about the ones who've had the most personal influence on you, or you could talk about the ones who you think are like have the best ideas writ large, or the ones who go about it the best, who write the best, or structure their ideas the best, or whatever. And they're all slightly different answers. I mean, I think like
there's also kind of a gray area in terms of like whether or not you consider certain people philosophers or not.
There totally is. Like
for example, you could say, is George Orwell a philosopher? And it's
my brain heard that as George Orwell.
Like, is George Orwell a philosopher? Because it feels like Orwell
or like Dostoevsky.
Or Dostoevsky, yeah. Like Dostoevsky feels like more of a philosopher than Orwell does, to me at least.
I feel like they live in a similar space.
But they're similar, but there's like a gradient there, at least for me. Where like just the means by which they try and, communicate their philosophy is different or less direct than other philosophers. Yeah. So maybe they just are.
Like, they are literary figures as opposed to like pure philosophers, we could say.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they qualify. I think they're exploring metaphysical truths and making claims about them.
Sure, yeah, and I would agree. I think they are. I do. Oh God, who wrote Brave New World?
Aldous Huxley.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a fantastic book. So in terms of like,
I actually agree.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's just I don't know. I find it really, really fascinating.
Me too.
Like it's just
Why do we agree about this? I feel like we shouldn't.
I don't know. I just find it's an interesting thought experiment. You probably like the conclusions that the book kind of
don't remember the end.
draws into your mind. But no, like the, moral conclusions or whatever, ethical conclusions.
Yeah, I think generally I'm on board with Huxley. Good old Hux. Good old Aldi.
I'm trying to think though. I really, really enjoy the philosophy of certain practices. For example, Rick Rubin wrote a book that I'm reading right now that centers around like the personal philosophy of being a great artist, which is really, really fascinating. I love it. I'm loving reading this book.
Is this the one with the little circle?
It is, yes. It is fantastic. It and it's very practical. I love philosophy that you can just immediately apply to something and kind of like see the results from. I find that stuff to be fantastic. So
I'm surprised you didn't immediately jump to the mathematicians. So like whatever.
Oh, I could Kurt Gödel. Yes, I mean I have one of Gödel's books right here.
Yeah.
But Gödel has a lot of accolades and whatever. But like the thing people know him from is the incompleteness theorem, which I think is cool. But also the conclusion feels obvious to me. And I get that like someone had to do the brunt work and actually like write it down and whatnot, but I don't know. It feels. I respect Gödel a lot. I think another one you could probably bring up is Schrödinger.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Schrödinger's cat is like one of the most famous questions. It kind of is an intersection between physics and philosophy. No.
It was actually posed as a reductio ad absurdum.
What is that?
An argument. Reductio ad absurdum is when you make.
Sounds like a Harry Potter spell. I guess it's just Latin, and that's what happens.
Have you seen those things where it's like, why did they not teach Latin at Hogwarts? They could do anything.
True. Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I guess if they were having a normal conversation, you'd see just popping out of them,
Is that how it works? I feel like they have to voluntarily. Like, I don't feel like the verbal component of the spell or the somatic component of the verbal component.
That was a thing where, like, they later, like, could drop the verbal part and just kind of think about it.
Well, that's true, but I feel like you need something besides just the verbal component of the spell also. It's got to be...
Sure, but it's not
intentional.
I know the wand isn't necessary either because Dumbledore can use it without a wand. I think you have to be exceptionally powerful or whatever to not use a wand. But anyway, whatever. Where did that spark from? Oh, the absurdum thing. Yeah.
Yes, right. So you follow someone's logic and make a claim or present an instance that's blatantly absurd as a means of sort of invalidating the logic that got there. So if you were like...
Oh, it's like a contradictory argument, but like...
The chicken thing.
Yeah.
Right? Aristotle is like... I think it's Aristotle. I may be wrong about that. No, it would be Plato.
Aristophanes?
It was... I think Plato. Aristotle was later, I think. I gotta... It's been a minute.
Not my realm.
Anyway... So someone is trying to define what man is, and they're like, okay, so a man has 2 legs and whatever.
Right.
2 legs, 2 arms, no feathers or fur or whatever, and so on and so forth. And so then Diogenes plucks a chicken and throws it into the room where he's teaching and says, behold, a man. Because he's got 2 legs and arms and is bald. Yeah. Reductio ad absurdum. You're following the logic
take a
and
preface.
showing it's basically a counterexample, but in a goofy or absurd way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you assume like a system and then show that system is flawed.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we use this in math. Even.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So,
if you believe this, then you must believe this. This belief leads you to this. Or even just you believe this. Therefore, this. Look at how stupid.
I do know. I have a feeling my quote unquote favorite philosopher will probably like change just the more I read into this stuff. Like I've been recommended Marcus Aurelius multiple times. I have Meditations sitting on my bookshelf.
Me too.
Right
we
now.
have the same copy.
Yeah, and I need to go through it. I just haven't had the time to.
People really do rave about him. He got some good stuff.
Because I mean, I've been told, because I've mentioned the whole practical philosophy thing. They're like, that is exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been recommended that. So I don't know. We'll see if that changes. But I think for now, I'll probably just stick with probably Orwell. He's probably just had the biggest effect. Yeah.
Haven't you not read 1984?
I have not. No, I read Animal Farm, and then I read like an excerpt that wasn't like an actual thing, like an actual book. It was like a short. I don't remember what it was, but anyway.
Fascinating.
Yeah, or that, or Aldous Huxley.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I think probably like the one who really got me even into the world of philosophy was Jordan Peterson, funnily enough. And he is sort of in that gray area of philosopher also. He's sort of a psychologist, sort of a history professor, sort of a lecturer, he's sort of a lot of things. But I think he solidly interacts with and deals in the philosophical, if not structurally.
Right.
Yeah. And so I totally qualify him, and he is one of my favorites. Maybe like, okay. I think theologians totally count, and I've been reading Institutes of the Christian Religion by John Calvin, and I absolutely love how he writes, how he thinks, the way he builds. It's just fantastic. It's really, really, really an incredible work. I've never read any of his other stuff, and I'm not all the way through it yet. I'm maybe 3/4 of the way through. It's a 4-book, it's a 4-volume set, so but yeah, no, I think at this point in time, I definitely would say John Calvin, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's the most right and also presents it very, very well that I've come across so far.
Fair enough.
Wow.
Let me double check on
I don't really care about those questions. I mean, I guess I can read them to you, and you can tell me if you want to. Oh, well, here's a fun one. Must something be actual to actualize?
No.
Based. I agree.
No, but I'll probably have a different reason than you do, but no.
That's the classic, right? Because the idea is like...
We talk about this in Change a lot, right?
The first cause, right? Every cause must have a cause, and so there must be a first... Or every change must have a cause, and so there must be a first cause, an uncaused causer, etc. An unactualized actualizer. Or a fully actualized actualizer, rather. Complete potential. It's one of the arguments for God. It's a few of the arguments for God, really.
Well, no, it's called
I mean, you sort of
first cause argument or whatever. Yeah.
The argument from motion, I believe.
So my whole thing was that I think most of the time it does have to be actual to be like you have to have an actual thing in order to actualize something else. But I also think on a technicality, I think you could. No, I would say most of the time, like if you reduce it down, I could see something. If you're looking at time slot, it's like the change thing, right? It's like if something causes something to happen, but then when you're seeing the after effects of something of that cause happening, right? Then the original thing that caused it could not still exist and thus not be actual if you're looking at it in that time slot, in that time frame. Now, whether or not you say it still is actual is probably where
I would say that it is, but
I would say it probably isn't.
But like, so So Aristotle looks at change as the actualization of potential. And so the idea then is that in order for something to change, its potential is being actualized, but that has to be instigated. It must be actualized by something that is already actualized in order to instigate the changing of potential into actualized.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be something that is real that can instigate that can cause it. And I don't feel like that holds. And I know that I probably shouldn't be like tearing down arguments for God or whatever, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. It doesn't seem right to me that only things that are actual can actualize, can instigate that process. It seems like if you're suggesting that change is the actualization of potential, that there's a nested premise in there that potential is not an actual thing. Potential is non-actual in some way. And so if that's the case, like if I'm in an enclosed space with a chimp who is looking at me menacingly,
right?
Probably regret the joke you just made.
Right.
And it's like looming toward me as though it were to attack me. It hasn't attacked me yet. The attack is still only potential. But the potential of that attack is now going to instigate my preemptively either attacking or running from the chimp, right? There's a situation here. There's the potential for something to go horribly, horribly wrong. And so I'm going to get out ahead of that and instigate some sort of change. I'm going to actualize some potential. And the thing that started that chain of potential, that chain of actualization
was
potential, not actualized, right?
I can see that. I do think that the actual in that case is just you seeing the chimp and knowing what that usually follows, or like it taking the first step towards you or something, right?
Right.
Is the actual thing that then...
But then I'm acting based on potential, not based on the actual. If I didn't...
At that point, I think you're acting on instinct, which is just, this chimp is stepping towards me. I have a framework in my mind that... It's like a prediction framework, right?
Prediction.
Yeah.
Necessarily dealing with potential.
Sure, but if you had never seen a chimp before, you had no concept of a chimp, I feel like you would have at least less of an
if it
instinct to run away from it.
I think you would still...
Sure.
The more and the closer it looms, the more likely you're going to be to respond either by running or by fighting, I think. But also that's because the potential is drawing nearer, is drawing closer to actual. There's less potential for something besides the catastrophic thing the closer it gets and the more ominous.
There's definitely a way to structure this. I will get back to you on this. There's definitely a way to structure this that would take that apart, because I feel like, why am I doing this? I shouldn't be... Now I'm trying to like justify the first cause argument, which I have many, many, many problems with. Especially on a basis of change and how causes even function. But I won't get into that right now. Because I feel like we can probably save that for... Have we even touched on the first cause argument? I don't think we have.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on like arguments for God at some point. Just do an episode on God.
Be careful with that. I might fall out again.
I mean, I can... I wonder what that sounds like.
Oh, adjusting it? Well, we can figure that out.
I shall indeed. What? Oh, well, maybe I'll do a person. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh, man. I'm not even sure. To be
I'm not
honest,
sure.
I really, really like Forrest Gump.
That is striking to me.
Yeah, I really like Forrest Gump, but I'm not sure. I wish I would have had watched more movies before you asked this, because I feel like I'm just not involved in that space that much.
Yeah, that's true. I can attest to this.
But I'm not sure.
I'll ask you again on the 20 episode special.
I feel like there's one that I'm not thinking of at the moment that's like a very clear, like, yes, that's.
You seemed to be impacted by Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes, but it wasn't as profound as everyone else had, like, was reacting. I didn't have as much of like a reaction as other people did. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure. It might have to be Star Wars Episode 5.
Wow.
Empire Strikes Back. It's just so good.
Nerdy.
Yeah, it is really nerdy, but it is the perfect sequel. It is just the perfect sequel. That's a hot
take too, isn't it? I thought people really were I thought the like 4 through 6 were kind of contentious.
No. So 4 through 6 were the original trilogy, and then they do the prequels.
Right.
So technically 4 through 6 were like 1 through 3 before the prequels.
I was speaking in order, not in order made, not in order, in chronological order. Yeah,
so in order made, yes, the prequels, which are technically episodes 1 through 3, would be temporally 4 through 6. Yes. Those were contentious. 3 is fantastic. Revenge of the Sith is really, really good. I'm not a fan of Attack of the Clones anyway.
I want to clip this just
yeah. I find Attack of the Clones to be really, really tough to watch sometimes. Phantom Menace has a special place in my heart, but I think my favorite is Empire Strikes Back.
All right.
It's just so good. It is legitimately the perfect sequel, and it has so many cool, like, there's a lot of cool concepts as well. It's not like usually you go for that for like hollow fun, right? Yeah. But then with that like one, Avengers. You actually walk out of it with like genuine thoughts in your head. Like you're thinking about like, certain.
Well, maybe I'll have to. We should rewatch the Star Wars movies at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
We'll
skip through 7 through 9. We're not watching 7 through 9.
The Disney ones?
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Those I don't count those as Star Wars canon.
You should watch Rogue One if you haven't.
I didn't like it.
Okay.
Really strong. I disliked it, in fact.
Really?
Yes.
I think you told me about this, but I don't remember why you disliked it.
Me neither. It was years ago.
Well, you hadn't watched Andor before that.
That's true.
Which I feel like changes things a little bit, so.
Doubtful.
Okay. Anyway, what's your favorite movie?
Probably Everything Everywhere, Everything Everywhere All at Once, actually. I seem to have given myself a blister by clicking this pen.
You should stop clicking the pen.
No. I find it to be, I mean, it's like fun and actiony and whatever, and those things are nice, but I think that the sentiment in it is very deep and very good and very well expressed. I think they pull you into it in an interesting way. It's also just kind of a cool philosophical exploration of, multiverse stuff and time and identity and purpose and all that stuff. Meaning, it's just, and
it's also just a fun watch, even if you aren't interested in that.
And I find it, to be deeply emotionally evocative in a way that few things can pull off within the context of this fun, crazy, chaotic thing, which makes it doubly impressive. Music also really cool. I think Love Me might be a close second, actually, which nobody likes except for me, but I think it's an incredible movie. I think it's a really, really good commentary on a lot of modern day phenomena. I think they do an incredible job of depicting relationship dynamics in a funny but also very telling and true way.
Mm-hmm.
They do a very good job of sort of portraying the feminine, and it's also a really interesting exploration of identity and meaning and all that stuff, and even consciousness, right? Because they're AIs, and that begs a ton of interesting questions. And I think the end is just beautiful and fascinating and emotionally charged, in a really interesting, contemplative, sort of bittersweet way. Wonderful movie, top-notch movie. It's gets very bad reviews.
Okay,
but I think other people just don't get it.
Okay.
Because it's great. It's truly a great movie. We're gonna have to watch that one sometime soon too. It's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do know that there are certain movies that are just better watched on your own as well. I feel like, have you ever noticed that when like you're watching a movie with someone else and it just feels
100%
completely different, you know?
Yeah. I don't think this is one of those, but maybe. I would certainly urge you to watch it at least with your girlfriend. I watched it with an ex of mine at that time. I mean, with my girlfriend at that time.
Right.
An ex of mine now.
Yeah.
And found it to be a very good experience. And it didn't take away from the movie and did yield, good discussion and good interaction and thought and whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, I encourage it. But I don't think it would really take away if I were there third wheeling, and I think we should do it.
Okay.
Bring along. Oops, I'll cut that.
Yeah, you can bleep it.
Yes, I shall.
So, okay.
I'll do okay. I'm going to do a non-personal one.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on AI in art?
Ooh, wow. AI and art.
Mm-hmm.
I generally am not a fan of AI to begin with. So I think anything it's involved in, I think it's great for certain things, and certainly it is not, you can't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an up and coming technology. Like, it's not up and coming, it's now a very relevant technology, but you know what I mean? It's still it's very, very, like, it's being developed at the moment.
Up and come.
Yes. So it's, I understand that I can't really, like, complaining about something that is impossible to avoid doesn't have much substance to it.
I disagree with that. Sin is bad and we should complain about it, but also it's unavoidable.
Okay, well, let me cook.
Continue.
So, because I'm very practical in how I look at that type of stuff. So if I'm not going to say like, oh, AI shouldn't exist, it's going to exist. You can't, it's not going to not exist. You have to accept that people are going to develop it and it's going to exist and it's going to persist in our lives. But I also have a negative outlook on things like artwork because it inherently needs human-made artwork in order to function in general, because it needs training data. It has to use that in. So I think the most ethical way to have an AI generate art for you is to paint all your paintings or make all your artwork, train it on exclusively your artwork, and then have it produce works that are similar to yours. That's the most ethical way to go about it. But I don't think that using AI art, especially with like the Studio Ghibli stuff, that really was not, I was not happy with that.
I didn't know about that. I mean,
no, I mean like people using AI to produce Studio Ghibli style stuff.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
I was going to say
a huge thing. Yeah,
Miyazaki would like murder the people running the studio if they tried to do that.
Yeah, no, people were using AI to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I would say generally it's a bad thing. I think there's no good way of going about it. It's going to exist regardless, but I think it is a bad thing. And I think the people out there have a responsibility to just not use AI artwork wherever possible, So I know people will say like, oh, but it's such a big save on resources to like just quickly throw together an AI generated image for like, or AI generated artwork or something for like an event or something. Just get an artist to make it. It like it just will feel so much better for you as a person to like go to an event and see that your artwork or like that the artwork for the event or something, this is just an example, is actually crafted by a person, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like knowing that your custom pair of leather boots was hand sewn to its sole by like a craftsman, right? Versus by a factory, right? Like it feels better when you know that like this was handmade, like truly handmade.
Yeah.
Versus
it didn't make you out for such a purist.
Yeah, it's strange. I feel like people out there have a responsibility to just say, hey, to at least recognize it and be like, hey, okay, we'll try and choose things that don't support AI art. You know, kind of like not villainize, but kind of
blacklist,
make them feel like other. You know, the people that use AI art like in the worst way you can imagine. You know,
right?
Yeah, so that's how I look at it.
Interesting.
Yeah. How do you feel about AI art?
Conflicted. My intuition is kind of to fall on it where you do and be like, I don't want AI making my art. I want to see art from people. Mm-hmm. But I do admittedly have a very, very hard time justifying or qualifying that intuition. Because like I'm not sure what argument you can really make about the art that would give you just cause to view it so differently. I mean, like the main argument I feel like people make is like all AI can do is draw from references. It's not doing anything original. It's just mimicking and synthesizing. And it's like, okay, yeah, but that's what people are doing. That's all people do. We see things and we make them and we synthesize them with other things to make something new. Like you can follow that chain of artwork. We stand on the shoulders of giants. And the art that I make is going to be a sort of amalgamation of all of the art that I was exposed to, which will be an amalgamation of all the art that the person who made that the people who made that art were exposed to, and so on. And you can follow that back to the first artwork, which was a mimicking and synthesis of things from the real world, the divine artwork, the divine theater. And so, like, I'm not sure by what standard you can say, well, the art that AI is making is bad or unworthy or somehow less original or something. Like I'm really not sure that that's true. I'm really not sure that it's true.
But you get that feeling that this feels like this is wrong, right?
I do. I'm just not sure how to qualify that. That feeling. And like I think better questions to ask or better objections to pose would be something akin to like accountability or whatever. Like there are those AI artists on Spotify and whatnot now.
Yes, yeah.
Who are raking in tons of streams and whatever. Like, okay, so now suppose one of those artists were to win a Grammy or something. Like, what even happens? Does it? I know the people who are prompting the AI get the money for the streams from those things, and so maybe they would get the Grammy. But at that point, what they're doing feels a little more like engineering than artistry. On the other hand, though, I mean, like people would have made that same argument about people using MIDI controllers instead, like clicking in MIDI notes instead of playing an instrument. It's like the computer's doing all the work. You're just prompting it. And it's like, well...
So I think the difference between that is that playing an instrument, yes, it does have like kind of the novelty of it, but the creative act that is involved in making music is preserved between placing MIDI notes and playing an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
The creative act is completely preserved there. Sure, you don't have to go, have to physically play it, right? But like you can still go through the motions of that.
Right.
With an AI prompt, it is inherently taking the creativity out of it.
Sort of, at least, except that you're fine tuning. You're saying, I want this, and I want it to sound like this, and I want it to be in this way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but like even people that aren't in the music industry could probably prompt an AI to make a song that's at least on par with the ones that they were producing.
And I mean, that's one of the arguments that people made against the MIDI stuff is like, even a person who isn't from the musical tradition, who can't even play an instrument, can make music with this stuff.
I don't know.
I'm totally with you. It just, any distinction that you try to make feels sort of arbitrary to me. I feel like any distinction that you can try to make also applies to other things that we accept.
I think maybe where I would say is like the level of involvement that a person has in the artwork itself must be greater than any tools they use.
Interesting.
Right? So
I'm open to this.
Yeah, which is why I feel like the jump from instrumentation to, physically placing notes in a DAW, digital audio workstation, is not nearly as big of a leap. Like, yes, sure, it's out of your hands a little bit more. But even then, the computer kind of becomes the instrument at that point. Like, you're still the person coming up with the melodies. You're still the person coming up with the structure for the song. You're still the person coming up with the vast majority of the stuff for the song. Tools make up maybe 10% of that, right? Where like you're just clicking on samples or whatever, and you hear one that's like, oh, I could do something with that, right? Like without that tool, you maybe would have not have been able to realize your art. You see your art. I said your art. I would not call a song made by an AI model that was just prompted the prompt engineer's art. It's not their art.
So
they were the person responsible for the creation of it, but it's not their art because the actual AI model is doing 95 to 98% of the actual work and creative process and all that. I mean, there's not really a creative process, but you get the idea.
So does an architect design a building?
Yes. But they're the designer, and like if you are a musician, you're both the designer and the person that realizes the artwork as well.
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like being an architect is something akin to being a composer.
Right. Sure. Yeah. But I look at professional performance as different as well. Like, yes, you can have different, what's called intonation or whatever. Like you can perform a certain piece that's very
interpretation.
Yeah. So you can do that, but also I feel like the core of the piece is different than how it's performed.
Yeah.
So performance, sure. Right. I think the architect thing works for performance, but if you are the writer of the music, right?
Much as the architect is the designer of the building, and it seems to me like, okay, so the architect comes in with a vision and says, I want this and I want it like this. And it should be like this. And then the engineer takes that and says, okay, so in order to make that like that, we'll do all these things.
Right. But I find architecture to be less distinctly art
than
music is. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think music is much more immediately art, I suppose, than architecture is. I feel like that's more like a group art project. I feel like yes, if you told robots to do it, then maybe. Yeah, but you have a construction crew and you have a contractor and whatever. Like you have a bunch of people you're working with to put to realize your art.
Yeah.
And all of those are people, not like...
Sure, but I think it's still your art. You designed the building, you had the vision, and then you made it real by way of people who helped you.
Sure, but I still think, I don't know, I don't think it... I think the less automated something is, the more art, the more pure of an art that it is. is kind of the rule that I think underlies this whole thing on my end.
I kind of agree, but as soon as you bring things in the box, then they start to get automated. They become less pure. So then the question is, where is that line of purity that you're willing to accept, and why?
I don't think there is arbitrary. I don't think there is like a distinct line there. I think it just is. It's like the fuzzy cloud thing before. You have a conception of what right and wrong is, and it kind of just conforms to that. I don't think that there is a distinct line, like a golden rule that you can use for that. I think you have to let people decide whether it's right or it's wrong, and I think majority of people think it's wrong. And I think that's fine to just base it off of that. I don't...
Like, how do you feel about AI EQ plugins or something like that?
I don't know. I feel like... Those are a little bit different because I feel like the process of mixing and mastering feels less...
It's more engineering.
Okay,
so what about...
technical. It's less art. That's like the least art part of the process.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What about... there was like that synth GPT that came out a while ago where you can, you prompt it and it does your sound design for you, basically. I don't know how good it is. I never tried it, but...
That I'm more okay with because you're deciding, like you yourself are deciding what you want it to look like still. So like that's just, because again, sound design, you kind of have an idea of what you want it to sound like already. And then you use the tool in order to realize what you had in your head.
Right.
Right. And sometimes you'll just be messing around and find something that's cool.
That's what it is with the AI music too, though. You know what you want to hear. And so you prompt the AI to make it.
Sure, but people who are doing that are not specifically going in with a plan of exactly how it'll sound. They don't know how exactly it'll sound because the AI is not good enough to perfectly replicate what you have in your head.
I mean, heck, man.
If they prompted each and every track, maybe, of a song, like each and every component that goes into a song, that's less terrible than just prompting it and having it create an entire song in one prompt,
Interesting. There's, like, even that applies to me, though, because I go in with a vision when I make a song, but I'm not good enough, nor precise enough, nor consistent enough for it to sound exactly how my vision did at the start. It always evolves and changes and is a little bit worse and whatever than you hear at the beginning in your head. It's not just a fault of AI, it's just a fault of processes in general.
Sure. I mean, but I think it falls on the intentions of the people actually making the music now. I don't think there is, like... I have a feeling I know the rough archetype of the people that are prompting for songs.
Fair enough. Yes,
yeah, and it's very just like...
Right. I do see what you're saying. I think
it is just the craftsmanship that goes into it. People appreciate the craftsmanship. It just depends on how much you're willing to degrade the craftsmanship before you get fed up. Right?
So you think if someone goes in... So suppose someone does go in with a very clear vision and prompts it very carefully and revises very carefully to make that vision come out. But it's the AI doing the actual, the stuff.
Sure, yeah. Like I said, I'm not like happy about it, but that's like maybe a perfect middle ground of like something I'm like okay with, possibly. If it's done tastefully, then sure. And I'm sure it'll sound much better than like generating a melody and then actually running it through a DAW as opposed to generating an MP3 file.
Right.
That's just terrible. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of it probably comes from my own personal distaste with the use of AI in everything. Yeah, so I have a feeling that's probably where that's coming from, but I don't think that this is even one of those things that you can come up with a golden rule or a fine line or like a distinguishing factor, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that really exists for it. It just people recognize that some things are just not good for the general public, And I think AI music is one of those because it's going to undermine actual artists on the platform.
For sure.
Right? Yeah, it's eating up their space.
Right.
Which just feels wrong, and it feels intuitively wrong to everybody.
Yeah.
Or to most people.
Yes.
There are some AI demon people out there that, that really don't consider things like that. But
yeah, I think Timbaland is kind of leading the charge on the AI music stuff.
I'm just exhausted with the AI talk. I'm not gonna lie.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. I would certainly never listen to it, and I don't like that it exists, and I don't want it to. I just am having a hard time supporting that claim with reason, or that position. And that's not to say it can't be done. I think it probably can. I just haven't figured it out yet. I haven't found something that I can't also apply to people. All right. Well, we can do like one more, probably. Yeah. Well, okay. We can do something short and goofy, and then one more. What is the opposite of a moat?
What?
What is the opposite of a moat?
I said this earlier. I think the opposite of a moat is a mound.
Excellent. Oh, okay. All right. We're gonna do one more goofy one, just because it sounds fun.
Okay.
If you were an animal, which animal would you be? The eyebrows.
I was talking about this with my girlfriend yesterday. I think there's no single animal that does that, like that like encapsulates who I am the best.
Okay.
I think the two closest ones was like a deer and a fox for me, which I think I kind of agree with. I think
they don't seem particularly foxy to me.
That's where the deer comes in. It's not perfect. I don't know. I feel like, it's not perfect, but yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be the closest thing. I think it'd be like a deer or something like that. But like if I could just pick an animal to be,
kind of make me think of Pinto.
I could do a parrot. Parrots seem like they live pretty solid lives, and they're pretty intelligent as well. Yeah. And they live like 85 years or something crazy. Yeah, so I would probably go with that.
If I could just some sort of one. Dog.
That's fair. Greyhound was another thing I was thinking of.
They're too feisty for you, man.
Greyhounds are not at all. They're really chill. Yeah. They have a lot of energy. Like, so they'll like, go out and run around a ton and then come back in and then like just be so chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty chill dogs, actually. All things considered, they're pretty chill.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, what about you?
I've always had a soft spot for foxes historically, and that's what I've historically aligned myself with. But I don't know. I feel like as time goes on, perhaps it's leaning more away from fox and into something maybe more wolf-like or something. A little bit less playful and a little bit more, I don't know, dependable, consistent.
Well, rigid. There is actually a wolf that's kind of acclaimed to be like kind of like a mix between a fox and a wolf.
I'm intrigued by this.
And it's called a maned wolf.
I've heard those things are crazy looking, man.
They are a little strange. Like they have really, really long legs, but their energy is very like it's like a fox mixed with a wolf. So if you're in your transition period, then I think
all right, I am a maned wolf.
that might be solid. Okay, was that the last one, or is there no one more?
No, there's a real one.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for listening. So we'll finish off on this, a personal note.
There you go. You did this to yourself, man.
I'm not sure I did.
Because mine, I just don't touch the mic at all. I like set it up and I just leave it. I don't touch it at all. And I know you go like every 2 seconds. So I have a feeling that's why that.
I mean, part of that may be because it's moving, though. It's a chicken egg situation.
And then I don't think this has the bad wheel.
I don't think there is a bad wheel. I think that proves it.
But it was fine last time that I swapped them. I like put a lot of pressure on it. It was not moving at all.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
probably the cord.
Here.
If you had the cord wrapped up around there, it would work better.
You don't have the cord wrapped up around there.
But I don't touch the mic.
Anyway. Well, I did have the cord wrapped up around there when it broke.
But you were still touching the mic. So, but I'm saying like the reason why it's messed up now, I think, is because of the cord. I feel like if you wrap the cord up and didn't touch the mic, I think it'd be fine.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
What milestones are you most excited for in your future? And I'm going to put the book away now.
Oh, God. Okay, so what milestones am I most looking forward to?
Yoinked my pen.
Yeah, I'm the one with the pen now.
Have fun with your blister. Anyway.
Probably graduation. That's happening soon.
Do we have the same pen?
No.
Okay.
That's a pencil.
Fair enough. Graduation, you say?
Yeah, graduation would be
Why?
something I'm excited for. I'm also excited to be able to work on my personal project for at least a couple months here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been very I guess like I said, it's like the career existentialist thing that I was talking about before. This is before the podcast, but I'm actually more inclined to be career and financial oriented as of recent, and I'm not really concerned as much with the means by which that happens.
Relationships will do that.
I mean, I'm comfortable with all of that right now. I'm fine. I'm doing perfectly fine.
No. I didn't mean to insinuate. I just mean like the sort of the sort of taking on of that responsibility, or even that potential for responsibility. It sort of, I feel like relationships bring a sort of clarity of that even if subconsciously just motivates you to then it kicks up those provider instincts.
Right. But I've also was thinking, like, I've constantly run this kind of experiment in my head of like, would I rather right now spend every day of every working day of the week in an office or in a classroom? And my answer has always been a classroom up until this point. And then finally I asked myself that, and I'm like, you know what? I actually would rather be in an office than a classroom.
Interesting.
And I think it's because I'm losing faith in the structures of formal education lately.
Fair.
Not because of all the things you talk about, but because of the industrialization of education more so. I mean,
it's kind of
when you think about how similar deliverables for a class are as compared to an assembly line, you start thinking like, okay, no, this is just like...
No, I mean, it's literally how the modern education system was designed, was for factories, was to create diligent factory workers. And I mean, you see that cropping up even in the changes that they're making, right? Like science and philosophy weren't separate fields until the space race, whenever that was. And then they're like, okay, we need a bunch of people to just know a stupid amount about like science and astrophysics, and we need it right now, and we don't have time for any of this other stuff. Cut all the fluff, make it cheaper, make it readier, and make it more focused on just these cold hard numbers so that they can send people to space before Russia.
Right.
And then the scientific and philosophical fields were separated. A wedge was driven in, and it's never been fused again. And this is why you have people doing things like gene editing without thinking about the philosophical implications of such action. Yes. So I'm with you.
Gene editing is not always a bad thing, I will say.
That's a topic for another podcast.
Okay.
We could totally do one on that, on bioenhancement, though. On transhumanism.
So, but yeah, anyway, so graduation, personal projects, and yeah, also I'm ready to get into the workplace. I'm a little bit sick of school now, which is the perfect time because I'm graduating soon. So,
yep.
Yeah, it is the worst time possible for me to graduate, market state-wise. It is really, really rough out there right now, but I'm not going to be all doomerist and say it's all over, so I'm just going to...
Doomerist.
That's what, yeah, I mean, legit. Anyway, what do you have on the horizon?
I don't know that I have it immediately on the horizon or whatever, but I totally know that vibe, by the way. I've spent a good deal of time in that. It's like, I'm done. I want to start getting my feet under me. I want to start actually doing stuff. I have the capacity now to do things. Let me do them. Let me start building, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I know the vibe. And so
what is happening over there?
It's the but yeah, so slightly less imminent, slightly less proximal for me. The milestone in my future that I'm looking the most forward to, I do think, has to be marriage.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yep. I can think of nothing. I can think of nothing. I can think of nothing that I can think of no milestone that would be more deeply impactful to me or do more for me.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yep. That makes me sound like I'm not looking forward to marriage. I am very much looking forward to marriage, but it's just, it feels like it's a ways out. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think I'm more of a romantic than you are. Also, I spend a good deal of my cognitive time just in that place, in that world of marriage. I mean, we've talked about this a bit before too, but I feel like a lot of the work that I do ends up kind of like there's that ordering of things, this for this and whatever. And for me, ultimately, like I'm excited for my work and I'm looking forward to my work, and I think that I can do a lot of good with my work. But ultimately, the work is kind of for the family for me. The work is kind of for my wife.
Right.
I don't know if that's biblically sound. Adam is given work before he's given a wife. The wife is given as a helper for the work. And so maybe that's a disordering of priorities for me. Maybe I should be more work oriented, and the family should be for the work, aid and legacy. I'm not sure, but as it stands, I'm very deeply a romantic, and I spend most of my time thinking either about something philosophical, something abstract, about just broader truth, or about relational, phenomena, things, relationship stuff.
Solid.
Yep. And then, I guess planning work things in future also. But like if I'm just sitting around thinking, no, okay, I guess I do. I am sort of planning work stuff also. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. Yeah. Any
Oh man, I got both the mic. This is gonna sound crazy on the airwaves.
Excellent. Well said.
No, I'm pretty happy.
Airwaves. All right. Do you have any final questions?
No, I don't have any final questions. Thank you to the people out there that submitted questions.
Our 4 faithful listeners. Do you have any questions? I'm disappointed.
Nice bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for providing all the questions. If
like
anyone
Mickey
out there
Mouse
is listening, if anyone out there who submitted a question is listening, thank you for submitting a question. Feel free to leave more questions just randomly if you're listening to this in like the comments or whatever. So
yeah, please, or just you are. We're able to be found. We're able to be messaged. We've got our email link to the platform and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Totally don't hesitate at all to reach out in the comments, in an email, whatever. If you're wondering about something, ask us about it. There's a good chance we'll be curious.
Yeah.
And it could make for even good fodder for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the reason for our next episode.
That is true, actually. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Well, the reason for the topic of our next episode. We're going to do an episode
yes.
either way.
Yes, but
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Praise God.
Oh,